Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. 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 Grind the tape.
The tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach, and the bench deep.
Right.
Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting.
Yep.
Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunkered down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Film guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Kirby Smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back, like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We doing a little bit different around here.
We ain't come to play, we ain't come to play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape. The tape.
We ain't come to play, we ain't come to play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't come to play, we ain't come to play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't come to play, we ain't come to play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. The
Shut
tape.
up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up and grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Shut up and grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up. The tape.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Monday evening. It's a loaded show for you guys as per usual. Today is Memorial Day. And guys, I feel like the habit of the everyday civilian is to make the common mistake of saying Happy Memorial's Day. Very similar to the mistake that I made on this network about 3 years ago when streaming on this day. I've always decided that I will stream, we will work when I know for a fact other people are not. If you're at home due to a holiday, I like to be in front of a camera in hopes to grab your attention during that day while you're sitting at home. I made the mistake several years ago saying Happy Memorial Day, and our veterans in the chat and our people that are serving or have been serving in the military quickly corrected me. Today is not a happy day. Today is a day of remembering those that paid the ultimate price. So thank you for all those that have served and are currently serving. As one of the very things that I noticed very early on is like, wow, we have a pull in the military kind of like space. We have a lot of listeners that are either active duty or prior duty or retired duty, service duty. And the many of people that I've talked to that have served in the military and are listeners of this show, they say it's the straightforwardness of our approach here, the no beating around the bush type of attitude that we have around here that kind of attracts that line of people that are in that line of work. So we are very thankful for your sacrifice and your service to this country. Something that I've always said, man, like I love me a little bit too much to put the collective we above the me. So those of you that are in the services, man, my salute, not salute, but my thank you to you, if you will. Again, something that I don't think I could ever do. So thank you for that. I want to start tonight's show by sharing something with you. The biggest, or rather the reason why we were not here Thursday, I had to fly out to Texas for my grandfather's celebration of life. He passed about 3 months ago to prostate cancer. So our family went out there to Texas where he lived to have that celebration of life for him. And I wanted to start tonight's show by sharing with you, I think the biggest lesson that I learned from my grandfather So let's try to do this. I'm going to try to do this a little bit cleaner than I did at his ceremony because I think this is something that is very, very important. And I live my life based on this, and I think everybody can probably take something from this. So I want to share this with you, man. To me, my grandfather, Ron Austin, was the definition of joy and energy in life. He lived hard, and he certainly lived with a smile on his face. I once asked him, I think he was like in his 70s. We were going to his barn to help, herd cattle. And he was in his 70s, guys, and we're riding on his gator up to the pasture. And I'm just asking him, like, hey, man, like, how do you have this type of energy? I've been up with you since 6 a.m. this morning going through your daily routine. I'm exhausted. I'm in my late teens at the time. I can't remember what age I was. In my family, I was old enough to drink beer, so I'm guessing I was about 17. And I was just like, man, I'm exhausted. How do you have this energy to do this? You're in your late 70s. And he told me quickly and very direct to the point. He told me simply, I tell myself I feel great. I tell myself I am, therefore I am. I wake up every morning and I tell myself I'm happy. I wake up every morning and I tell myself I feel okay. I wake up every morning and I tell myself I have the energy to go and do, therefore I go and do. And I think to me, his life, to me, epitomizes the mind over matter stuff that we talk about so much in sports. Oh, if you just set your mind to it, you will inevitably do it. This guy lived that. I wake up and it's on my board. I talk about earning a smile, right? Putting through your daily habits, the ability to earn the right to put a smile on your face. That sucker woke up every morning, and as soon as his 10 toes touched the ground, he was wearing a smile. And I think the way he did that was he just told himself, I'm happy today. I am good today. I feel great today. And he ultimately was. I think if the one thing I could take away from my grandfather, I am because I tell myself I am. So shout out to you, B-Paul. I love you, and I miss you. And I also want to say this, guys. I appreciate the hell out of you two. I've been very in and out the last month and a half because of recruiting, and now obviously because of this last week. And you guys have held down not only this show, but the entire other side of our business. And I felt okay for the first time walking away from work and being able to shut up. My phone got lost in the lake this week, and I honestly, it didn't even faze me because I knew I had 2 rocks back at home. So I appreciate you guys, man, for relieving a little bit of stress in my life that I've walked around with for the last 3 or 4 years doing this, mostly by myself. So I'm very thankful to have you guys as teammates, man. I appreciate y'all.
I'm glad we've earned that trust from you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate it.
No doubt. Let's get into this one. It's going to be a great show for you guys tonight. Auto qualifiers are coming, folks. We told you about it several months back. It seems like it's almost written in stone at this point moving forward. We're going to talk about that. The rooms in 2025 that have the most pressure upon them, we'll talk about that. We've got some, what do you call these? Casualties. We got some rev share casualties already hitting the bottom lines at some of these SEC football programs, and you're going to see more and more of this. I think this is the first of impending times, if you will, right here in one of our show topics tonight. And apparently there's an interesting coaches list from ESPN, so we're going to talk about that tonight as well. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. If you miss any portion of tonight's broadcast, it will be made readily available. However, wherever you get your podcasts, just search the Film Guy Network and leave us a solid review over there as well. If you're watching us live on YouTube right now, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and fire off in that chat. I'm glad to be back in this chair, boys, for the foreseeable future. I don't think I got to leave anywhere until like 3 weeks from now.
Oh, yeah,
so we're good.
Elite 11, right?
Yeah, I go out to the Elite 11 June 17th. I fly back the 21st.
Hopefully no security guards give you problems this time.
Oh, buddy. I'm back at Hotel Mimosa. Hotel Hermosa? Hotel Mimosa would be lit, though. Hotel Mimosa would be lit. Hotel Hermosa back there this year. I'm going to pre-record those. I like to do things live. I feel like there's a different energy about me when I know I am live. There is no reruns of this. I'm going to treat those pre-recorded Elite 11 reaction shows as live. One cut, no bullshit. Going to get on there, record it on the iPad or on the actual camera, and then upload it to YouTube. That way there's no, hey, audio's skippy, hey, you're in and out because I'm dealing with a hotspot, not Hotel Hermosa, or as I like to say, Mimosa's hotspot or Wi-Fi. So we're going to be doing that, and I'm excited to be going out there in July or in June. But, man, we got like 3 weeks of content here on the show to knock out before we go do that.
Bring it on.
Let's do it. Again, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. All right, so we told you about, 3 months ago?
Probably.
About 3 months ago, that the SEC and the Big Ten were flirting around with this 16-team playoff with 4 automatic qualifiers for the SEC and 4 automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten. And when Ross Dellinger, back 3 or 4 months ago, reported this and that they were talking about it, I told you guys, I told everybody on this show, ain't no talking about it, ain't no thinking about it. Like Bobby Boucher's girlfriend said in The Waterboy, that's what it's going to be. It ain't no guess, that's what it's going to be. And starting in 2026, this is what it's going to be. There's going to be 4 teams automatically brought into the playoff from the SEC, 4 teams automatically brought in for the Big Ten, 2 teams from the Big 12, 2 teams from the ACC, 1 team that is non-Power 5 highest ranked, a.k.a. the Boise from last year. All right, and then 3 automatic at-large bids, which are 2 automatic at-large bids, because I'm going to tell you right here today, May 26th of 2025, as long as Marcus Freeman and that handsome devil is the head coach of Notre Dame, they are one of them 3 at-large bids. I think we looked it up today. Notre Dame has only failed to be outside of the top 16 rankings at the end of the preseason twice in the last 10 years, and they just got a really, really good head coach the last 3. Brian Kelly, really good. Marcus Freeman, really, really, really good, right? We all agree there. I think Notre Dame locked in. I think they're the biggest winner of this 16-team playoff. Honestly, Notre Dame fans, it's why I berated the idea that you were an independent last week. I knew this was coming. I knew the 12-team playoff automatically locked you in. And, I mean, we might as well write you in stone every year with the 16-team playoff, boys. What are your thoughts about the automatic 4-4-2-2-1 plus 3 equals 16 system?
Well, I think there's some obvious pros because I think at the end of every single playoff, and I think even last year, you had SEC fans and Big Ten fans saying that other teams in their conference deserve to be in there. South Carolina was certainly one of these. Alabama was another example of this. So I think this certainly helps that out. But I think there's also just, instead of the automatic at-large bids, it is the Notre Dame rule. It is the Notre Dame bid is essentially what it is. So I think it's great that you're going to get the 2 best conferences without a question of a doubt. They're going to be the majority of the playoff, but, I mean, it's still a lot of teams. I mean, we rattled off last year's what it would have been with 16 teams, and the first thing I said was, man, that's a lot of teams.
If you can promise me today that it stops at 16 and we're not going anywhere else for at least another decade or so, I'm fine with it. I've conceded the fact that we need to stop expanding. Like, that's obviously you're fighting a losing battle if you do that.
Yeah.
Going from 4 to 12, I thought was too many. We're going to 16 in 2 years or so.
What do you think about championship weekend turning into a bracket style? Because that's what's going to happen with this, by the way.
Yeah.
All reports indicate that the SEC and the Big Ten on championship weekend will play 2 games. One between the 1st and 2nd seed and one between the 3rd and 4th seed, ultimately deciding those final seedings.
I mean, it's a good consolation to try to keep the meaning in these games still going, but we've seen in baseball now, when the field is so wide and you're basically guaranteed a spot no matter what happens in conference championship week, you're not as I mean, we even saw this year with Kirby Smart with the fake punt.
I got a take on this. I got a take on this. I might have to save it for the local hour, but that SEC baseball tournament should be the best baseball tournament known to man. Mm-hmm. It should be the best baseball tournament in the history of baseball tournaments. Every single year, they have the best baseball teams in the world, okay, in college baseball right there in one region. Yet, when they go to play the tournament, about half of the really good teams are like, you know what, screw this shit. I'll just wait and stack my lineup and stack my roster and stack my pitching staff for the inevitable 64-team playoff that I'm getting in. I've already been guaranteed a top 8 seed because I'm a top 8 seed anyways. Like that we're like 2 more expansions in college football from that right there happening.
Oh, I don't even know for 2 more expansions. I mean, we saw last year Kirby Smart kind of threw caution to the wind in an SEC championship game.
Yeah.
When he went for a punt on 4th down, faked the punt. And he
knowing good and damn well he's in.
Said in the post game, he's like, it's a lot easier to make that call knowing you're going to be in regardless.
Yeah.
So teams, things like that.
I don't mind that happening in football right now where we know we're getting in anyway, so we're going to risk a little bit more to win this game. Mm-hmm. What I am fearful of is like when an NFL team's already clinched top seeding in the last 3 weeks of the regular season, they're just like, let's just get healthy. And then they don't do shit the last 3 weeks. That's what I'm worried about happening in college football, this positioning, this angling. I don't think the 16-team playoff allows for that. But we go to one more expansionary measure. Like right now, there is no real incentive to be a top seed because you're not winning a bye. in the 16-team
No.
playoff.
So my question though about this is,
I think you're going to see some angling.
I think obviously the first two teams in those conferences would be automatic bids regardless of what happens. But are those 4 teams that are playing championship weekend already guaranteed their spot heading into the weekend? Because
Yeah, you're just playing for seeding.
but those 3 and 4 teams, like the 4th team in the SEC, could be neck and neck with the 5th best team, but they're playing that weekend, so could a loss bump them out?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because when I was then I would
I think that's going to be one of them unwritten rules between the conferences and the playoff committee.
Okay.
We are not going to punish teams for playing on championship weekend. I think we kind of saw this past year, did we not?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that means for me, like the conference championship game, that's great for them because the other teams that are going to get in, they're still having to play a game that weekend. And obviously you're playing in the conference championship game.
Now-
so there's meaning in that game. But for those 3 and 4 teams, I think it is completely meaningless. Like, what is stopping those teams from just playing their backup quarterback
Nothing.
and just saying, whatever,
Nothing.
who cares?
But it also gives you an excuse if you lose that game. Well, yeah, but we had a backup in.
Yeah. I also think that, like, when this news came out, first of all, most people's heads were buried in the sand. The news came out 3 months ago, like we told you. From now on, when you hear Greg Sankey and Tony Matiti are thinking about maybe doing such and such, just know that it's already done. All right? They're just making the transition smoother on you by releasing the headlines in stages. It's already in motion, okay? But, you know, I think when most people got all up in arms, it's like, oh, these 2 power conferences are yielding their power, wielding their power, and they're taking out the little man in college football. And or I've heard this one. We're alienating portions of the country. Have you heard that? We're
Yes.
alienating portions of the country. We are doing this based off of historical data. Again, we told you this 3 months ago when they rumored it, okay? Because Ross Dellinger knew it was going to happen so much that Ross had the historical data on how many times conference members have made the college football playoff. And guess what? It is 2-1. It is 2-1. The SEC and the Big Ten have 2-1 members, or rather playoff contenders and playoff, participants and winners as the ACC and as the Big 12. It is slotted towards the historical data that we have accumulated over the first 15 years of the college football playoff. So if you're looking for fair, this is as mathematically fair as they possibly could have made it.
Yeah, and I think that the people you really see complaining about this are outside of the Big Ten and the SEC. Like, those within it all are in agreement that these are the 2 superior conferences. I think the trepidations I have for it are it leaves the door that much more open to get a Super League going. Because in 5 to 10 years, when the margins are that much more, it's like, all right, it's the Big Ten, the SEC. ACC's got nothing left. Big 12's got nothing left. We're not even going to talk about the Group of 5 anymore. We just need these teams to be competing for a national championship because I do think that's where we're eventually heading. I think that's the next step in all of this. I don't think it's more expansion. I think it's just excluding even more schools.
And I think, too, like, not only just the historical data of, like, playoff appearances, but also teams outside of the SEC and the Big Ten making the college football playoff when it wasn't even 12 teams, when it was just 4 teams. You have examples there of which teams pursued through that and who ended up winning the national title and everything like that. I mean, it's the Big Ten and the SEC.
And the other thing that I've heard, the major complaint out of this is that, this makes going to 16 makes the regular season even less important. And I'm with you in terms of, like, losses don't mean as much. Obviously, Georgia watched their brains get beat in by Ole Miss on the road, and it was like, let's just win out. We'll be fine. You know, I get that, understand that. But, guys, we're, like, just using Georgia, for example, again, for the second straight year, due to college football expansion and conference realignment and conference expansion, we're going to watch Georgia play Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida for the second straight year. Okay? Those are schedules that I don't think we get in 10, 15 years ago when you quote-unquote had no problems with the way college football was being run, right? Or you loved the way old football was, or wins and losses meant more back in the day. I'm with you, but them schedules didn't look like that back in the day. Also, I don't feel like we got Texas and Michigan every year, or Texas and Ohio State every year. And by the way, those are only coming more and more frequently down the path because the SEC and the Big Ten have already come out and said they're going to start playing crossover games. So yes, does it mean less or does it hurt less when you lose a game in the regular season nowadays? Hell yeah. But there's a lot more meaningful ones, okay? And I don't know if that's a trade-off for you, but let me just put it this way for you fan listening today, okay? You get more games and losses hurt less. That sounds like a win. That sounds like a win to me. I'm not a fan. I don't have the fandom tie. However, if you just told me that, common sense wise, hey, you get more good games and losses hurt less. That feels pretty good.
It does, but I think you're also leaving out the fact that wins feel less good as well.
Yeah.
Beating a Georgia at home and doing all that.
I don't know. They stormed the damn field, had pretty damn good time.
Dude, half the time they storm the field just because they win the game. Like, that's becoming that's a story in of its own. But doing that and then saying, oh, well, that team ended up winning the SEC championship and going to the playoff, and we all know what happened there, but that win was mitigated a little bit. We talked about, the Michigan thing. Michigan still obviously is very high off that win, but going and seeing Ohio State go on the tear they win and win the national championship after that, it probably takes a little bit away from that.
I don't know. I think little brother gets to sit there and say, hey, y'all might have won a title the year after us, but we beat you, so that one doesn't count. They get to do that whole thing.
For sure.
They get to troll.
I do think also that the byproduct of schedules we see right now is also the fact that teams are just better.
Yeah.
Tennessee's the best they've been in 15, 20 years. Florida's the best they've been in the last 10. I mean, they were a dumpster fire up till this point, and they still might be, but they're a much better football team.
Nicholas in the chat says, also the problem is that with some schedules are way harder and some schedules are way easier by comparison. Ideally, that's what the automatic qualifiers get rid of. Like, there's some variance in your scheduling nowadays, right? Like, Texas got a cakewalk for 2 years, and Georgia's was brutal. Missouri's was a cakewalk, and Oklahoma's was brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M was decent, while Florida's was brutal, right? Like, there's variance in the scheduling. However, I do believe that because you get those automatic qualifiers, we're not having to worry about this strength of schedule debate that we had last year. If you're a top 4 seed, you're in. Like, yeah, we know you play a tough schedule in the SEC. That's why we're giving you 4 automatic qualifiers.
I will say, as a fan, the fact that losses don't mean as much, that there's something about growing up and maturing a little bit during those pivotal losses as a young college football.
Yeah, you learned a lot. You learned a lot about that UCF loss in 2009.
Man, there's some important life lessons everybody needs to experience. But the biggest thing for me, and really the only thing that I care about when it comes to this, is I don't want it to dilute the atmosphere of games on Saturday. And I think last year, I don't think that happened. I mean, coming from somebody that was at the Georgia-Alabama game, that was at the Georgia-Tennessee game, that was at the Georgia-Georgia Tech game, the Georgia-Ole Miss, those environments felt like any other Saturday. And you guys can speak for the Georgia-Texas ones.
Year, didn't he?
He got some good ones. I went to Texas.
Got some good road trips in there.
I also didn't miss a home game, so I didn't get the Ole Miss and Alabama one. But honestly, not complaining about that.
Yeah, that's
didn't miss much there.
That's all I care about is I don't want the atmosphere to dilute, because I think that truly is what makes college football so great, is that game days in college feel so much different than it does at the NFL level.
Buddy, as long as the beer's flowing and the bands are playing, I think you're going to be all right.
Yeah, and I agree. And if that's the case, like, sure, the loss may not mean as much. Or
the NFL games would have this pageantry if stadiums didn't become obsessed about 15 years ago with amenities inside the damn stadium. The fact that you can go to a Harrah's at the Falcons game is stupidity. I don't want people gambling at the blackjack table when we got a 4th and 1. The hell up out of here. I don't want that. I don't think it's ever going to happen in the college ranks. I don't think these stadiums will turn into attraction venues like they have on the NFL rates so much.
No, I mean, that's not what I'm alluding to. I agree that the grandiose and the larger-than-life matchups where it's Georgia, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, these top 5 teams are really great. There was also kind of a flatness to the normal game. Like Georgia-Auburn last year. Now, granted, it was an exciting matchup. There wasn't a lot going on, but that's a rivalry game, and it was a fairly close rivalry game for the most part. That was a very flat environment. There were multiple times this year where it's like, man, there was one point where the biggest pop we got from the entire game, I don't remember which game it was fans seeing that Vanderbilt was beating Alabama on the scoreboard. Other than that, there wasn't anything super loud happening on the game. So, like, stuff like that kind of makes me go, is the environment withering, or is it just...
And maybe that's the bad thing about getting better games in this format is you're going to get fatigue. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard to show up every single Saturday. Because, like, when it was just the Eastern Conference for Georgia, you knew 2 games that you had to really show up for. Yeah. If Tennessee was going to be ranked late November, you had to show up for that one. They're always going to show up for Florida. And if Auburn was at home, you had to show up for those.
We also go to football games at a program where that Auburn game was dead because and I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I understand why this has been created. You win 2 back-to-back national titles. You recruit the way that you do. Your preseason ranked the way that you are. There is an expectation of dominance. That's what there is. That Auburn game felt flat to me because fans were sitting on their hands going, hey, will y'all hurry up and beat this ass? Because y'all are supposed to beat this ass.
I'm trying to go to the bars.
I'm trying to go to the bars. Same thing in Mississippi State. Hey, will y'all hurry up and beat the shit up out this football team that ain't got no business being here? And when you don't, I'm going to boo. There's like a certain level, and Bama went through this as well. Bama went through this under Saban where we just expect to beat everybody by 40. And if we're not, we're pissed off in the fan base, right? We're pissed off inside the stadium. We're not going to give you the pop that is required.
Very true. It's very true.
Kirby Smart had every right to call out the fans for that.
And he did right after the game. He's like, I think there's an assumption that we just going to come out here and play good, that we don't need a good environment. No, we need it every single week to get these 17, 18, 20-year-olds up.
Yeah.
So,
especially for like fans that want to claim that you have the best environment in college football, man, you got to show up and you got to prove that.
Absolutely.
But no, just tying it all back to the 16-team playoff, I think we all are kind of leaning on the side of 16's too many, but you're fighting a losing battle at that point. Just if it stays at 16 for another 10 years, if we can get another 10 years out of 16 before the powers that be and, casual fan bases ultimately gripe and moan about, the 17th team deserved to be in, and we'll never get some more expansion. But until then, if we can get another 10 years out of 16, whatever. I concede.
All right. I concede on the topic as well. Rooms that are under the most pressure in 2025. So here's how we did this. Okay, we're going to go through certain teams, and I'm going to tell you, hey, if this unit on this football team does not play well, the expectations and aspirations of this football team are cooked. For example, South Carolina's offensive line. They have an elite quarterback. You guys know my feelings about Lenore Sellers at this point in the offseason. I think he's great. I think he's going to be even better than I expect him to be tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, by game 7, he's going to be even better than I say he is right now in game 1. He's still got tremendous improvement left in his game. I like the wide receiver weapons as long as they stay healthy. I like Jared Brown. I like Mazeo Bennett. I like the fact that Nick Harbor's actually playing football for a full calendar year. That makes me feel randy for what he might be able to do this year at South Carolina. Really, really scared about the running back room. Did Fashul get
still up in the air?
Still up in the air. Middle fingers up to the NCAA. Everybody getting extra years of eligibility, hopefully. But anyways, I'm questionable about that. But nothing matters offensively if their offensive line doesn't continue to take steps forward. I thought in 2022 they were disgusting. I thought in 2023 they were somewhat less disgusting. I thought in 2024 they were serviceable. Can they be good in 2025? That's my question. And I think they will carry this football team offensively as far as they can possibly go.
I think for the last 5 years, they were ranked 80th or worst in sacks allowed in college football. So that really is the biggest indicator because – and I think that we've really tied this into – this is going to play into how Lenore Sellers plays because he can only do so much for you, and the last thing that you want is your prized possession getting beat up every single possession. I mean, I think it kind of gets overlooked a little bit that Sellers missed multiple games last year, and he missed halves of games because, I mean, he was banged up a little bit last year and in some important games for them. So definitely got to get that cleaned up for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely the concern, especially when you have a quarterback that's kind of known for his mobility. He's going to take more hits than the average quarterback. Putting him behind a bad offensive line is just upping that risk of injury much more.
He's a playmaker by nature. He's going to hold the ball a little bit longer than most people. He's going to think he can get away with things a little bit more than most people. You got to put a good offensive line around him. I like Josiah Thompson at left tackle. I think he's going to be a superstar. It's about the rest of the unit.
Yeah.
It's about the rest of the unit. And they're returning a bunch of guys that played. They got a lot of playing time, but it's one of those things where just because you, like we say all the time, just because you got groceries in the fridge don't mean you can make a 5-star meal.
Very true.
I have Ohio State's running back room. I think that having Quinshad Judkins and Travion Henderson last year was great, and they came through for you in multiple moments last year, especially in the playoff. Travion Henderson's touchdown was a huge play in that football game against Texas. But I think that replacing that is the biggest thing for me because I know the quarterback room is still kind of up in the air. They're trying to decide who's going to be starting quarterback, but your wide receiver room is going to be great, and that kind of alleviates that. You got good product everywhere else, especially on the defensive side of the football, but having those difference makers at running back last year really helped you prevail in some big moments. Curious to see how that plays out for them.
I went a different route. We're going to stick on Ohio State, and then we'll come to you. I went with Ohio State's defensive line. Like, I really like what they return at linebacker. I obviously love what they return in the back end. I think Devin Sanchez is probably going to play a little bit for them this year as a true freshman at corner. At least there's a possibility of it. But, man, the defensive line lost a lot of bodies, a lot of really, really good NFL bodies as well. There's a reason they went out, and I'm not even going to say added. I'm going to say purchased. There's a reason they went out and purchased Bo Atkinson from UNC. They needed it bad. I love the tape that I saw from Kenyatta Jackson. Where's 92 for them, or 97 for them, rather. This is a monster. This kid, when I first saw him on tape, I was like, that kid's got to be 6'3", 250 the way he's moving. Turns out 6'5", 275. He's a freak, okay? I'm excited to see what he's actually going to do. They've been keeping him in the cupboard for a long time. I think borderline 5-star, played at Chaminade High School down there with Jeremiah Smith. He's been on the roster forever, not getting a bunch of playing time. I think this is one of those guys that might pop in 1 year of starting for them. And it's a big year for Edric Houston, defensive tackle out of Buford. Played defensive end at Buford High School. They've bulked him up a little bit. He's going to play 3-tech for them this year. Caden Curry, another lifer up there on that roster. We actually saw him at the Adidas All-American game several years ago. Lot more undersized than is listed. Listed at like 6'5", 260. He ain't 6'5". About 6'2" 3/4, maybe 6'3", but plays with his hair on fire and been there a long time. I'm just curious to see what this defensive line at Ohio State's ultimately going to look like this year. I know they got dudes, but it's a lot like Georgia in years prior where they have the veterans leave and you know the people behind them are talented, but they haven't played a lot of ball.
Right. This was arguably the most followed player story of the offseason. Tennessee's quarterback room is going to be under a lot of pressure. If Joey Aguilar is not on level or slightly better than Nico Iamaleava, there's going to be a lot of concerns there. And if Joey Aguilar just flat out stinks, it's freshmen behind that. So I think it's Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre. So there's not a whole lot of options in that room at a position that is obviously very crucial to success offensively. And plus, there's not a whole lot of weaponry that we've said on this Tennessee team. We think Mike Matthews is going to take a step forward, but other than that, there's not a lot of options there. You kind of need the weapons to elevate the quarterback position. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that. I
think you kind of get put in a position with Tennessee this year where you may not even be able to evaluate if your weapons are all that great, or you may not even be able to evaluate if your quarterback room is good enough, because if the wide receiver room is indeed a problem or it's not living up to the standard that you thought, maybe your quarterback isn't playing to their ceiling or vice versa. So I think that those are the two biggest questions for them. But, I mean, quarterback room, obviously, because you are kind of relying on a guy from App State that had okay numbers, and now you're pushing him into the SEC and hoping that he can do anything and make something happen.
Guys, did you know that for 3 straight years now, LSU has not had a top 90 defensive back drafted?
Ooh. Top 90?
Top 90.
Usually they even have first-rounders.
First time in 20 years it's happened.
Jeez.
They got to get right in the defensive back room. They got to get back to LSU standards. And they have a 5-star. Huh?
The defense in general.
Defense in general, but I'm looking at that back end. Now, they've thrown a lot of bodies at the defensive tackle room. They've thrown a lot of bodies at the defensive end room. I know they're going to be good at linebacker this year. I don't know how deep they are, but Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins ought to be good enough in this conference, you would imagine, at that position. I'm looking at that defensive backfield, and can they find another great one? I think they have in DJ Pickett. I had an SEC football coach tell me, because I brought this up with them, he said if they screw up DJ Pickett, fire them all. Like, it's an unscrew-upable prospect is what I've been told. An unscrew-upable. This guy, pick and stick, 3-and-done, Derek Stingley type freshman, like, capable football player. So I'm interested to see what they ultimately look like. There are 3 new transfers and true freshmen in the 2 deep for them at LSU right now. So of the 8 positions they got available, 6 of them are brand new to the roster.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, explosives have been like their biggest pitfall for that defense.
Well, it's because Major Burns can't run.
Just him? It's just on Major Burns.
Buddy, here's the deal. Like, you got to move closer to the box the moment you attach a cowboy collar to the pads. It's the rules. If you have a cowboy collar on your pads, you can't play 11 yards away from the ball. There's just no way. Not in the history of football. It's never happened.
I don't even know how to respond to that. I have this isn't a room, but it's a person, and I think that he arguably has the most pressure to him this season more than anybody, more than Arch Manning, more than Lenore Sellers, more than Joey Aguilar, more than any of them. I think it's DJ Lagway.
I was about to say because he's got Billy Napier's job on his back.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing for Arch Manning to have to live up to the family name and live up to the 5-star status, all that stuff. And it's one thing for Lenore Sellers to actually turn into the number 1 overall pick and continue his greatness from last year, or Joey Aguilar to fill in the shoes at Tennessee, whatever it is. DJ Lagway not only has to perform this year because you got a small glimpse of it, and he looked really good, and I think he is going to play great this year, but you can't just do enough to where it's like Florida was 6-6 this year, but hey, DJ Lagway threw for 4,400 yards and 30 touchdowns. That might not save Billy Napier's job. You got to do enough to not only keep yourself around and keep your own aspirations alive, but you got to keep your own head coach's job.
And by the way, do it having not thrown.
Yeah.
Like all spring.
Yeah.
Because you have a lingering shoulder issue.
And that's the other thing. There's already 2 injuries to this guy's name.
Yeah, well, one of them's a hamstring.
Yeah.
That I could have sworn was a knee.
Oh, it looked horrible.
Yeah, it looked real bad against Georgia.
I'll piggyback off Jay Wills and say, yeah, DJ Lagway's under a lot of pressure this year, but we feel like DJ Lagway and that offense are going to be good. That entire defensive room has a big question mark behind it. So much so that we're kind of making the joke like, oh, Florida's going to have to win every game 45-44 this year. Like, if Florida's defense is not anything up to the standard or even close to comparable to what Florida's offense and DJ Lagway is, that team is going to be in a lot of trouble because we've seen the schedule. Yeah, they finished last year really strong. Billy Napier might be on the come up with things. DJ Lagway looks really good. But if you have a defense that's giving up 35 points a game, you're not going to win many football games, no matter who your quarterback is, no matter who your offense is.
Now, I went a kind of a different route with this next team in this next room. I don't think they have questions in terms of, like, are they going to be good enough? Like some of these other rooms that I'm talking about, like South Carolina's offensive line, are you going to be good enough? I know this room's going to be great. The team will go with how great they are, okay, especially in the postseason. I'm talking about Clemson's defensive line room, okay? Peter Woods, T.J. Parker, and my man Capehart coming back. For both of them, all 3 have been starting basically for 3 years. Now, can the Capehart kid stay healthy? Not kid, he's a man. Can the Capehart man stay healthy? Can T.J. Parker take another step? That's my question about him. And for the love of God, like just for my purposes, can we get like 10 pounds off Peter Woods somehow? Please. I know he likes to play at what appears to be 315 pounds. But, dude, if you played at 285, if you played at 290, you might be the best defensive tackle in college football. You might be that anyway this year because you're that talented and that gifted. But in my opinion, Peter Woods has put on about 10 to 15 pounds of too much weight and needs to come back down. And if he does, freak show. He's going to be really good anyways, but if he does, I'm talking like Derek Brown, first round type discussion, game-wrecking ability.
I remember you and I got in this conversation, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago, and I was kind of like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And you showed me his senior high school highlight tape. Unreal.
Totally different human.
Totally different player, totally different type of profile. I mean, I'm with you on that.
Like right now, he's just beating people with raw power and strength. Now, imagine if you still had some twitch about you, son. I mean, he plays hard. He plays a ton of snaps too. Like, can we figure out a way to get some weight up off? That's my question there. Again, I kind of like where they're at wide receiver. I think they could get thin, just like some of these other teams. I think they got 5 really good ones. But I think nowadays in college football, you got to have 7 or 8 that are playable at that position because of injuries and whatnot. I'm worried about where they're at running back, but I think defensively they might be able to get back to that Clemson defense, if you know what I mean. Like that really, really dominant defensive line.
I think that really is what it boils down to. Like if Clemson is indeed going to push through this ACC conference like you and I believe they will, I think it does boil down to the defense because I think the offense, like today, it's going to be good enough to compete with any offense in the ACC no matter what. But if the defense can just get back to like that suffocating play style to where it's almost impossible for any of those offenses to have success against them, that's what really has always made the difference for Clemson against the rest of that conference.
A little Sammy Brown, Jamal Anderson action at the linebacker
They do
position.
return a lot of bodies on that
I'm
defense.
telling you. All around.
Yeah.
I don't know where they found an extra year of eligibility for Antonio Williams. I feel like that guy's been playing since I was in college. Who else?
This one's just a layup because it has been one that's kind of been beaten to death quite a bit this offseason, but Penn State's wide receiver room,
Yeah.
I feel like you have to keep hammering that point down because I think it gets overshadowed a little bit because they do return Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, and they do have Drew Aller, and all those pieces are great. And I think that does play into the brand of style that Penn State likes to play offensively. But you also had Tyler Warren last year that kind of overshadowed a lot of things, and I think it really helped you out knowing that you didn't have reliable weapons on offense because when you couldn't rely on Tyler Warren, it was kind of abysmal, and it didn't work out for them. So I think this year they got 2 transfers in. I think they tried to make some moves to try and spark it up a little bit, but I don't know if it's going to be enough, and that's really what ties into how successful is Drew Aller going to be this year.
Chat's asking about Clemson's running back room, which gives me a couple of opportunities to flex both name and pronunciation and just certified ball knowledge. David Eziomume will be the starting running back at Clemson, I believe, backed up by one Peyton Strecco. How about those 2 names? Eziomume and Strecco.
I'm fans already.
Both state of Georgia prospects, of course.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Expectations often lead to pressure. I think this is one of the examples that we have of it. We hear every year about how, at least for it seems like the last 2 or 3 years, about how this year's Georgia wide receiver room is the most talented it's been, and this year's is going to be, this might be the year they have the 1,000-yard receiver or the elusive first-round pick. I think it's under even more pressure this year because, yes, you have those expectations as you usually do. We're hearing about how talented they are, but you're also adding in the fact that you're getting a quarterback that hasn't been in the program as long as he was. Gunnar Stockton has been with Georgia for a while, but he wasn't as long as Carson Beck was when he came in. He wasn't as tenured as Stetson Bennett was by the time he was really getting things going. So you have that combined with the fact that you're playing on a very, very difficult schedule. I think there's a lot of pressure in Georgia's wide receiver room this year, not because of, hey, if you don't succeed, Georgia's going to lose 5 games, but because you really need to step up your game and be everything that everyone's kind of saying you are right now, because the talent around you needs it.
Yeah, we've all reached go do it status here on this network with them.
Very much so.
Like, we can sit here and listen to the hype all we want. Y'all can – I mean, last offseason they were telling me, Georgia, hey, Dylan Bell's about to be Debo Samuel. Dylan Bell about to come out here and be a first-round fringe draft pick.
Man, Dominic Lovett made us seem like it made it look like he's about to put a Heisman season together after this spring game. It was like, whoo, this boy about to go for a century.
Only for Arian Smith to lead the team in receptions and yardage.
I went with a different group for Georgia. I think it's the offensive line. I mean, because
Cole Kublik said they're the best in the conference.
You also have media members though saying that if they don't play well this year, Searles is fired, or
we
should be fired.
We love that.
So that's kind of where they're at this year, and I think that with the wide receiver room, there has been some expectations placed on them over the years, but if there is one unit on the offense that fans expect to be great every single year and should be great, by the way, with how they recruit, it is that offensive line. Like, the expectation at Georgia is that you roll it out every single year, and it's going to be one of the best in the country. And so this year, based on how last year went, really it boils down to, can they stay healthy and get some of the pieces that you plug in this year as they continue to get reps because they continue to play better? But I think that offensive line is under a lot of pressure this year.
I got another group here sticking in the SEC. It's an easy one. It's a damn layup in this discussion. Oklahoma's wide receiver core. I mean, they weren't very good last year, and apart from a transfer from Arkansas Pine Bluff, they didn't go out and do a whole lot here this offseason. I think they're dependent upon some guys that have been in the program for a little bit, right? And they're dependent on being healthy this year. I like Jaden Gibson. I liked him a lot coming out of high school as a big body target. I'd say he's like an equate version of Nick Anderson, who they lost. I mean, he's obviously not that. I mean, I don't think he's close to an equate. He's like 80%, 85% of what Nick Anderson was. Obviously, Deion Burks returns. That's the kid from Purdue that was a slot receiver that went off at Purdue and then transferred to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
He was banged up all year last year, didn't play a whole bunch. The Javion Gibson kid, I believe, is the one. Giovanni Gibson is the one that transferred from Arkansas Pine Bluff. He lit it up in the mid-major level. I do, based off what I'm looking at in their R-Lads, based off what I know about their wide receiver room, it's going to be a John Mateer's legs for 14 carries a game type of roster.
It'll be the most
what it
electric
looks
thing
like
you've
to me.
ever seen in your life.
And it's going to be electric. It's going to be fun. But it's going to be interesting, to say the least.
Interesting is a very, very appropriate way to put it. Jayla, do you have any more?
I have another wide receiver room, and this position is kind of why I'm hindering some of the expectations that are put on this program, just because I think they lost a pivotal piece, and I'm about to explain to you how pivotal that piece was to this offense. But Georgia Tech's wide receiver room, they return Haynes King and they return Jamal Haynes, and again, those are two great pieces of the offense. They were really the heartbeat of the offense last year. But Eric Singleton, who transferred out of this program, was only one of two wide receivers that have 700-plus yards receiving in a season since DeAndre Smelter in 2014. Now, I know this is Georgia Tech. I know that's kind of an anomaly considering what they used to run offensively. They were not throwing the football around, so for them to have that wide of a gap.
That's like when a team wins their last 4 games of the last year and then the first 6 games of the first year, and they're like, so-and-so hasn't lost a game in 275 days.
Yes.
It's like, no shit, Georgia Tech hasn't had a good wide receiver in 25 years because they ain't thrown the ball in 25 years.
Yeah. Eric Singleton, though, had back-to-back seasons of 700-plus yards receiving, so he was the go-go guy for them, and I think he really was just that guy that Haynes King could lean on. And they do return Malik Rutherford, who was the other one. He was one of two. Malik Rutherford was the other one that had 700 receiving yards in a season. So you're kind of relying on him now to be your first option in this offense, but having 2 of them last year really paid dividends for you.
I think a year like this is going to be what is there. Now, obviously, we all kind of assume that this is the last year that Buster Faulkner is Georgia's OC.
Georgia Tech's OC.
Yeah, that's what I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Georgia Tech's OC. And especially if what he can do, if he can replicate Tech's success last year of that offense, and even to any degree with the less weapons they have. And I know Haynes King was banged up a good bit last year, but I feel like that's going to be really the catalyst of what makes him such an ideal candidate. The last one I have, we talked about this team probably this time last year about how, man, they've got like an NFL defensive line right now. Some people are saying it's the best they've ever seen.
Oh, a little A&M action, huh?
No.
Oh.
Florida State.
Ooh.
Yeah, even worse.
Shout out Pete Thamel.
Even worse. I mean, we all know what happened last year. I think that it's going to have to start within the offensive line and the line of scrimmage to win back that. I think their defensive line room is under a lot of pressure because of that. I think Mike Norvell might be in an interesting position. I don't think he's hanging on by a thread simply because of buyout, but things could get very interesting in Tallahassee if that defensive line room doesn't start producing.
I think he's hanging on a thread. I think he's hanging on a thread because he's fired every coach he's hired basically since he's been there. We've talked about it all the time. You only have so many scapegoats.
For sure.
You can only toss coordinators to the fire so many times before as you walk in
But
the
we're
plank.
also not 2 years fully removed
I
of
know.
them being a playoff team.
But that roster looks 16 years removed from being
It
a
does.
playoff
Oh,
team
it does.
right now.
I totally agree. But I think like we look at like, they're not going to fire Lincoln Riley. They're not going to do this, this, and that. Like Mike Norvell, I think, is in this. The buyout's too large.
Where's the mo down there, though?
There isn't any.
Like, Lincoln's got hella mo right now.
There isn't it. But, hey, let him lose to Bama by 10. Let him beat Bama in Tallahassee.
The thing, though, too, is like with revenue share coming and Deloitte and all that stuff, you're asking Mike Norvell to repeat what he did in 2023 in a way that he won't be able to do when that rolls around. He's not going to be able to just pile up this loaded transfer portal class and completely revamp his roster within a single year because things are going to change. And you can't just throw a whole bunch of money at everybody like you were in 2023. So even that year, that's starting to be put in question. Like you're going to have to start questioning, like, can he actually do it in this now new modern era of college football? You're going to have to essentially reprove yourself because you had a blip on the radar and then you went downhill rather quickly, and now you got to bring it back up doing something new again.
I've got 2 more groups that are under tremendous pressure. Do you guys have any more?
No.
I got 2 more. First and foremost, all 37 transfers that Texas Tech bought this offseason, they got a lot of pressure on them. They got ESPN article pressure on them. Mm-hmm. They've got we better win the Big 12. We just bought a roster type pressure on them. I actually spoke to a couple Texas Tech coaches on the trail and asked them about this. What does it feel like to actually have pressure? And both coaches had just been there like 6 months. They don't know. So, brand new coaches.
I think it's
unfortunately.
I think it's so crazy that just because an article gets written about Texas Tech and all of these transfers that they got, that people actually start buying into it. Like, I continue to see Texas Tech thrown in all these preseason top 25 rankings based on one article. Yeah. And I look at it and I read that article and I'm like, That gives me no reason to believe that Texas Tech is going to be competitive all of a sudden.
I found that, like, when the article came out, it was we paid $10 million for 13 transfers.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, sounds like you just spent $10 million on 1/6 of your roster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do with the other 5/6? You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to get to the level of talent that some of these other teams? Now, I understand you've got a good enough talent pool to win the Big 12, or at least you feel like you do.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, they're setting themselves up for a lot of expectations at a program that's not used to having them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you need to be Hugh Freeze. We better make a bowl game. But don't be out here talking about the private jet, talking about the oil money, talking about we buying our way to competitiveness in an article. That's a little bit crazy to me. Another guy that's got a tremendous amount of pressure for a very similar reason. Miller Moss better play well this year.
Ah, yes.
Miller Moss better play really, really well for the quarterback whisperer. And if he doesn't, fired.
Miller Moss or the quarterback whisperer?
Both.
Oh,
Fire them both.
that is a lot of pressure.
That is a ton of pressure.
Fire them both. ESPN coaches list?
I just want to say, though, I mean, talk about a career path where you get to go play for Lincoln Riley, and then you follow that up with getting to go play for Jeff Brom, the quarterback whisperer. I mean, your quarterback development couldn't be laid out any more perfect.
You're right. I was going to get into some general life facts about Miller Moss because he's been winning for a long time. All right, I'll tell you about it after the show.
Okay.
Yeah. Where are we going next, Curb?
All right, so I was stumbling or checking the internet today to kind of find some articles to write about, and I stumbled across an ESPN article titled Ranking All College Football Head Coaches as Players. And this was kind of an intriguing article. There's a lot of, former players, Josh Heupel, Kirby Smart. I think Bill Belichick even played now that he's in the college football rankings. So things like that I was looking through, and I was extremely disappointed to read this article and find out that it's basically just tiers. It's listed them in tiers. So the first tier is big school, limited production. And it goes down the list and lists, Kurt Signetti, talks about how he was at West Virginia and all those things. Then it goes down to the next tier. Tier 2 is pre-portal transfers. Talks about Fran Brown at Syracuse, Clay Helton, all of that. Group of 5 stars is the next tier. And it just names a bunch of coaches that are college football coaches that start on group of 5 teams. Then there's small school standouts. Next tier is, wait for it, small school superstars. And then there's Power 4 key contributors and things like that. It's such a weird list. And I'm thinking okay, you're going to go, Kirby Smart was an All-American in this time, had these stats. He's the 10th best coach as a player. It literally just took every single one of them. It was just here's the tiers we're putting them into, just kind of finding something in common.
Or just finding something to write about in the middle of May.
I agree. It's more to just express my disappointment in ESPN for handling this, because I really thought I stumbled upon a very interesting article.
You know what it hammered home to me? I've known this, and every sports fan has known this about coaching and coaches for as long as sports have been existing. Good athletes, great athletes, do not make good football coaches. Mm-hmm. They don't make good coaches, period. Name me the greatest athlete that has been the greatest coach, because I have one submission, and he ended up retiring very, very early. And it's in basketball.
Mike Ditka.
No, it's Larry Bird.
Oh.
Ditka counts, but
This
Bird,
is some ball knowledge right here.
That is true.
Bird was like an elite coach for the Indiana
Yeah, he
Pacers,
was.
so much
He
so that he
was.
went on to be a president at the organization. But that's it. That's like the one of one. Every other great athlete and great player does not come back to be a even halfway decent coach. The reason being, most of these great athletes don't know why they were great.
Yep.
They cannot explain it to you. This is how I did this. No, my body just did it. This is just how I got it done.
You wouldn't throw Jim Harbaugh in this category, would you?
Hell no. Now, the fact that he has his jersey retired in Indianapolis to me is mind-boggling.
I mean, that's pretty good athlete, I would say.
I mean, I don't know. No.
You're also leaving off Spurrier.
I know people are talking about Deion Sanders in the chat. Deion Sanders, to me, is a great coach. The same reason, he's a great CEO. I don't see Deion Sanders, since he's been there, he's been, come play for me, I'm Deion. I'm going to hire NFL coordinators to come be my NFL coordinators, or my offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Like, he's got a lifer impact. I'm pretty sure Pat Shurmur is still his OC at Colorado.
So.
Like, if Pat Shurmur's running your offense, Bubba, I'm telling you right now, you probably ain't going to have to go in there and coach much up X's and O's. Probably turning it over to him.
Tony Dungy is also a good example.
Who's that?
Tony Dungy.
Yeah.
So there's a few.
There's a few. But who is Tony Dungy without Peyton Manning? Let's be honest.
I mean, he won a
Fair, but I mean, isn't that kind of what helps make coaches great players?
Yeah, it's true.
Like, you kind of need both.
What's Kirby Smart without his numerous 5 stars on his defense?
That's numerous.
All right.
I think that this is more of a popular thing in baseball because I think that, like, Joe Torre is an example of this. He was both a great player and a great manager in baseball. But I also think that baseball is one of those sports where you have to be able to, like, you can't do something without explaining it almost because it becomes so robotic to a point where you have to understand how to do it before you do it. Now, there are some naturals at it, but in football, you're right. It's not that common. One thing about this article that I learned is Shane Beamer, anything mentioned about Shane Beamer and any fact I learned about Shane Beamer is the most Shane Beamer fact of his life. Like, Shane Beamer was plugged into this article under the Power 4 contributors. And I looked at Christian, I was like, there's no way Shane Beamer played Power 4 football. Like, there's no way that this man was a demon on a Power 4 football.
Walk on at Virginia Tech.
No, he is a long snapper. That's the Power 4
At
contribution. Was it Virginia Tech?
Had to have been.
The most Shane Beamer fact of that's how he was a contributor on a football
I bet he
team.
could spin it,
a
though.
long snapper.
I bet he could spin it.
Oh,
though.
I'm sure.
You think he's sub 7.7? Gotta be. I bet he's still to this day snap a .65.
He definitely would still.
He probably goes over to practice and does it.
Oh yeah, during those
Warms
special
up.
teams
you
meetings.
come out, coach is in a pure, like, dead cold sweat, and you're like, Coach, you been running sprints? Nah, been getting my long snaps in.
Brett Bielema played for Iowa's Big Ten title in 1990.
Hell yeah, Bielema.
Maybe are we throwing him on this list? Great athlete, great coach.
For some reason, I have a real problem connecting athleticism to Brett Bielema. My bad, Brett.
Del McGee.
Yeah.
Now he's still got to prove himself.
Played at Auburn.
Still got to prove himself as a head coach. But
yeah. Spurrier in the chat won a Heisman.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
It happened.
It has happened.
But
I feel like it hasn't happened recently. You know why? I feel like to climb the ranks in coaching, you have to start so early. The idea that you're going to play 12 years in the league and then come back and start your coaching climb is just unheard of.
I think the best example of this right now is Eddie George.
Yeah.
Where's he at now? I know he's at
Bowling Green.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You should know that.
I did know that.
Your grandfather sent you the email.
He did.
That's right. I knew he went to a
Jonathan's grandpa breaking news via email in 2025.
Sent me an article the other day that I have not yet read about Mac baseball.
Interesting.
Gonna have to give it a read.
Are you?
I might dabble.
Is it that needed?
I'm all about some action. All right.
Hell yeah. I mean, like, you said Kirby was an All-American?
All SEC at least. One of the two.
I was about to say I don't know if he's an All-American, but I could believe All SEC. That sounds right. I think, like, really the only examples you get of this, or the most recent examples, is guys that had to get out of the league early. First team All SEC. Okay. But yeah, guys that had very short-lived NFL careers, then they get back into coaching. It's not the guys that spent 15 years in the league and then retired, because I feel like at that point you're just like, I'm done.
Well, you're more of a brand at that point than anything.
Yeah.
Like Deion Sanders is the brand. It's not necessarily you go to play for the coach, you go to play for the brand and what that brand can do for you. Yeah, you go to play for prime time, like things like that. I mean, even maybe to some degree, like I don't want to undermine his coaching job, but Eddie George probably benefited from some of this, like, oh, Ohio State legend, Tennessee Titans running back Eddie George, I can go play for him, and then he turns out to be a really, really good coach. But
I mean, for some of these guys that don't do the track of GA and forever, like all these former, like, real pros, like Eddie George had to go to Tennessee State for 5 years before Bowling Green even gave him an option. Now, I think that's because Eddie probably didn't want to go be a running backs assistant coach at Ohio State. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
To go that route. So maybe these guys just immediately want to come back and be head coaches like Mike Vick did, like Eddie George did. Ed Reed tried this for like 2 minutes, I believe, at Bethune-Cookman before he was like, this is ridiculous. I'm out of here.
yeah.
So some of these guys are coming back to do this, but it goes back to what we were starting with. Most great athletes do not become great coaches.
That's true.
So
I think that's a fair statement.
And I see Ditka in the chat again. I'm going to refrain from being wrong about Mike Ditka twice, catastrophically wrong about Mike Ditka twice on this network. So my apologies to the Ditka family.
It's all good.
Honestly, Mike Ditka acting career far better than his coaching career. Just going to say that.
Ooh, you trying to go for 3 now?
No, I'm trying to properly tell you how great of a movie and how great of a role he played in Kicking and Screaming.
Is that the only movie he's been in?
It's the only one he needs to be in.
That is a good movie.
Juice Box. Go get me a Juice Box.
Underrated Will Ferrell movie.
Everybody say body Juice Box!
You haven't seen that one, have you?
Honestly, I don't know what movie you guys are talking about. I
Kicking-
didn't hear what the title
It's
was.
Kicking and Screaming.
Will Ferrell coaches a kids soccer team.
No.
Way too seriously. And his dad's like the rec league soccer coach of the decade, and he recruits Mike Ditka's help to win the Little League soccer tournament. They also get 2 Italians on the team that work at a butcher shop. It's a good movie. You should watch
It's
it.
wholesome.
It's wholesome.
Okay.
It's good chuckles.
I think it's a PG
Add it
movie.
to my list.
Yeah. Where are we going next?
We can either go to the local hour or we can very.
Oh,
very
no. I want to talk about this DeBoer segment we got here on the list because I have some thoughts. As part of the reason I was out and I let it slip. But DeBoer officially named Ty Simpson the starting quarterback at Alabama.
And I feel like we're
He
at
did it on Feinbaum's show.
Yeah, and I feel like we're kind of at this point of the offseason where some coaches are kind of like, all right, we're going to give up on this. There's a quarterback battle going on. And just like, yeah, so-and-so's our starter. They kind of always have been. But you guys knew that.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of felt like it was going to be Simpson based off of the spring kind of intel we got out of Alabama. But it is officially going to be him. And, guys, I have thoughts and opinions about this because of all of the people on the internet last year telling you, hey, I don't know if this offensive transition, not only coming from Washington to come to the SEC, is going to be easy, but look at the quarterback that he's going to be forced to use, right? We talked about DeBoer never having had a mobile quarterback, never having had a guy that they actually involve in the run game, not just involve, but make the focal point, okay? And now they're going back to a quarterback that is a full-field processor, an accurate throw of the football, a guy who can win from within the pocket based off all things I know about Ty Simpson. That's what I expect him to be. I expect him to be an accurate quarterback that makes good, sound decisions from within the pocket and has the ability at points and times to extend with his legs. He's a serviceable athlete. He's not a freak athlete, okay? So I expect Alabama's offense, I'm not going to say they're going to be light years better than they were a year ago because I didn't think they were terrible last year. But I do think they're going to be very, very vastly different than they were a year before. All right, and I want to talk about why I believe this, right? Look at the history of DeBoer offenses just dating back to 2021. Okay, 2021, his last year with Fresno State, they throw for 4,200 plus yards with Jake Haener at quarterback. He goes on to Washington in year 1 with Mike Penix, really year 2 because he had him for a year in Indiana. He throws for 4,800 yards in year 1 at Washington with Michael Penix, throws for 5,100 yards in the second year with Mike Penix in his final year at Washington. Now, guys, this one sticks out like a sore thumb. You can circle it with pen. 3,073 yards passing, 1,200 yards fewer than any year prior in the last 5 years of full seasons for Kalen DeBoer at the quarterback position. Guys, this offense is going to look totally different from a passing game concept this year than they did a year prior. I fully expect Ty Simpson to throw for at least 4,000 yards this year in this DeBoer offense.
And everything was working against him last year when it came to the offense because not only was he working with the style of quarterback that he had never worked with previously, but he was set to have Ryan Grubb on his offensive staff, and then he gets pulled away by the Seattle Seahawks. So then you're adding another wrinkle into this on top of being with the program for the first year. And now this year you got Grubb back, you got a quarterback that he can work with, and you're in year 2 of him being at Alabama. Now you're kind of picking back up the momentum.
And the receiving core is elite.
Yeah.
Right? Ryan Williams, they love what they got out of Isaiah Horton out of the portal from Miami. Jeremy Bernard is back for this team as well. Jalen Mbakwe, the 5-star athlete, making the full transition to wide receiver. I don't know if it's going great right now, but it sounds like it's going to be okay in the long run. And they get Jalen Hell back, a really highly touted high school wide receiver that missed all year last year with a knee injury, I believe.
I will be interested to see what this offense looks like now because For as much as Jalen Miller was kind of a basket case of like what kind of version of him are we going to get today, it's either boom or bust. There's going to be a lot less bust in this offense this year, but there also might be less booming. And that's Jalen Miller was like, whether or not you want to say he was a great quarterback, was responsible for a lot of what made that offense move. Now, like we said, new offensive coordinator. It's going to go back to sort of a Kalen DeBoer system, we believe, with a quarterback that takes better care of the football. But when you take out what was such a contributing factor last year so quickly and try to do such a rapid change, I'm kind of not worried but intrigued to see how they're going to go about doing that.
I think at times last year, the dependence and the reliance on Jalen's legs and design quarterback run was almost a hindrance to the rest of their offense.
I agree.
That's the way I felt. I mean, there were games where Jam Miller and Justice Haynes are getting like 18 total carries between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not ideal, in my opinion. So,
Don't you think that kind of does bring up a question about the offense, though, of is the run game going to be good this year? Because Jalen Murrow did a lot for it last year, and you lost one of your running backs this year to the transfer portal.
they were a wide zone counter football team at Washington. That's what they ran. You remember that number 7 that like, played on one tire at
Yes,
Washington and
I
ran
do.
for like 200 yards? That system was very stretch you and get north and south. We can't run wide zone with a read option quarterback. We can't elongate the mesh that long, right? So his entire run scheme changed last year for the first time in his career. And I think they had some good points about it, but I also think it created some negatives for that football team last year. We got a whole other hour. It's our best hour. We're going to transition into our local hour right now. Be back on the other side of the break.
You're good.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into the Film Guy Network for another hour of delicious, delightful dog content here as we transition into our local hour. We're finna talk that dog for the next 56 and a half minutes. Short as you 33 and a half minutes. My bad. That's on me. But here we go. We got a load of local hour for you. We're going to talk about season win totals being projected out of Vegas. Must-have recruits to start the show. That's a big one. I've got a take on baseball.
Now, the last outside football take you gave didn't go too well.
Not to the fans, but man, did we pick up some contacts on that one. Woo! Maybe not with the fans. They didn't necessarily like that one. But sometimes when the fans don't like it, it's probably because I hit a truth spot. You know what I mean? Like the Notre Dame fans that were all in my mentions for the last 72 hours or however long since I dropped that Notre Dame take. But anyways, we're going to talk about that tonight as well. Jarvis Jones leaving the Georgia football program to coach his alma mater in high school. We'll talk about that tonight as well. Who is Georgia's most underrated matchup of the 2025 season? And boys, you already know we got wheel of topics. But let's go to the board right quick and let's preview or overview rather this 2026 class as we start to talk about the must-haves. Let's do it. All right. Oh, man, great to be back with you guys. Huh?
This is your first board trip in a minute.
Yeah, first board trip in a minute. Appreciate you guys being here today. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Let's talk about the current 2026 commits.
Off to a great start.
Okay?
Back like you never
first
left.
and foremost, obviously, the quarterback, Jared Curtis. All right? Number 2 on the list, Jordan Smith, the defensive back from Houston County. Now, Jordan is playing safety. He's playing wide receiver. He's playing athlete in high school. I think Georgia's going to start him out at corner and see what happens after that. All right? And then right after that, we got Zach Fort, spelled like Zek, pronounced Zach. He is a true safety out of IMG Academy. I spoke to a couple people down at IMG. Guy loves ball. Guy loves ball. We love guys that love ball around here. Tight end, Lincoln Keys. All right, don't know why I put his position first and the rest of the guys second. But anyways, Lincoln Keys, big 6'5", 240-pound tight end, inline tight end. I think he's a really, really good inline tight end. Reminds me kind of like a Charlie Warner. Okay, like high school, playing him, great athlete, small level high school football, transition to be a great athlete, inline tight end. Might be a pro.
I like it.
We'll see. I like that a lot. All right, tight end, Lincoln Keys. Now, Graham Houston, offensive lineman out of Buford. Now, the tape I wasn't so sold on. I was takeable tape. Thought it was takeable tape. It's priority in-person eval. You go watch this kid practice. You go watch this kid play. You're going to come away thinking, I understand. I understand what Stacy Searles and that Georgia recruiting staff are doing right there. Now, Brady Marchese, as we call him around here, or as some of you laymen's like to call him, Brady Marchese. He's Marchese.
Is that actually how it's pronounced?
I don't know.
I thought
Brady
it was
Marchese.
I thought it was Marchese.
Marchese. We're going to call him Marchese around here, okay? And you got to give it the fingers, all right? You got to give it the Italian fingers right there. Good wide receiver commit, a Blazer. All right, Blazer. And this dude's kind of jacked. I don't know if y'all seen the video or the photos of this guy. He's really, really well put together out of Cartersville High School. Like him a lot. Safety out of Sprayberry High School. Look, Keelan Jones action right here. All right, good football player, really, really good high school football player, a serviceable in-state take at a position of need. How about that? That they do that every single year. Sometimes that guy turns out to be an absolute baller. All right, so here we go. Keelan Jones already committed. Now, defensive tackle, they think he's the number one guy on the board. We talked about him last week because he signed with a new agent and it scared some people. Seven Cloud. Defensive tackle commit out of Butler Community College, was formerly committed to the University of Georgia out of high school at 14 years old at McEachern before ultimately dropping out of high school, not getting his diploma, finishing his GED at Butler Community College, and then being the highest rated defensive tackle in community college. Not a bad little story there for Seven Cloud. Georgia looking to hold on to him. I think they will. All right. Vance Spafford down here at the bottom, and there's a reason. Okay, of all of the 9 commits Georgia has right here, the wide receiver from California is the one I personally feel they're most concerned about potentially flipping. Okay, especially there's a weird inkling that he might be tied to Mark Bowman. I think if you land Mark Bowman, you can kind of safely assume Vance Spafford's there too. If you don't, I think you might have questions. I think you got questions anyways. I think they feel good about Mark Bowman. USC, a little bit worrisome right there with Vance Spafford. So those are the 9 commits right now today. What we're going to talk about today on this channel is the 10 most must-have prospects in the 2026 class moving forward. All right, so let's start with it. Must-have. Do you know who number 1 is on the board?
Mark Bowman.
Mark Bowman, you goddamn right. Anybody that is compared to Brock Bowers with a DAP game, that dude goes number 1 on the big board. All right, Mark Bowman. Now, I think they do feel really, really good about where they're at. I think they know that he's going to have to take not a sizable pay cut, but a pay cut to come to the University of Georgia, comparative to maybe Texas or Oregon, who's involved. Ole Miss involved as well in this one. Heard he really, really liked his OV out there in Oxford as well. He'll be in town relatively soon for his official visit to the University of Georgia, but again, I don't count out Todd Hartley in any type of recruitment, particularly the really, really big ones. Number 2 on the big board for me, Malachi Lee. All right, now, I think this is I'm not going to say a stretch, but I think they don't feel great about where they're at with Malachi. I think they feel like they're playing catch-up. Reason being, they spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
They spent 3 real long, dedicated years trying to recruit Jackson Cantwell. That one kicked you in the nuts. So now you're kind of scrambling, and I think you're going to be scrambling the rest of the class. Okay, number 3 here on the big board for yours truly, Kamari Brooks. Now, guys, these are not in rank of how I believe these players are, right? I don't believe Kamari Brooks is the 3rd best player that we're going to talk about today. I think he's the 3rd most important to sign. He is the 3rd most must-have football player on this list today because of the position that he plays. They don't have an edge commit in this class. They don't have a bunch of targets in this class. The reason being, they're saving up for 2027 in this room. 2027, I've tweeted about it. I will talk about it till I'm blue in the face. 2027's edge class might be the best ever in the history of recruiting. There are 7 guys in that 2027 class that I think by the end of the evaluation could argue for 5-star status. This year, I think there's 2. Okay, it's just not. And one of them, Zion Eagley, who I think is relatively undersized considering what we're going to see next year in this class. In 2027, all the 5 stars are 6'5", 240. All of them look like the position of need that Georgia's got going on, or at least the body style. I think Kamari Brooks is the one and only, if you will, the guy they're most in love with in the 2026 class. Speaking of most in love with, everybody seems to be in love with Savion Hyder, and I think the reason being, I think Derek Cooper in Miami might as well already be married. Do you feel the same way?
It seems that way.
I feel like Mama loved Miami. I feel like I feel like Derek Cooper liked Miami, and I think Derek Cooper going to end up in Miami, which means everybody else is now in a big-time heavyweight battle for Savion Hyder. I'm talking about Michigan. I'm talking about Georgia. I'm talking about Tennessee. Okay, I'm talking about, I think Oregon's in the mix there as well. There is a lot of really, really not only powerful recruiting programs, but high-paying recruiting programs in the mix there for Savion Hyder. So I think that one's going to be a battle down to signing day. Number 5, all right, he's down here because of the way that the room currently sits. I think he's the best player on the board that we're going to talk about today. It's Tyler Atkinson, the linebacker out of Buford High School, or Grayson High School. Can't believe I did that. The green and gold will make me do that. Anyways, top-rated linebacker in the class. I think he's by far, hands down, a guaranteed success. I think he's going to be he's going to be a pro in 3 years. There's no doubt about it. However, I wouldn't go out of my mind making sure I have to get this kid in this class, despite how great he is. With the way that your room looks right now, I think you're fine moving forward for the next couple of years. I'm not going to say overpay. I wouldn't go crazy for Tyler. I don't think they're going to, I should say. I'd pay him whatever he wants. But I think the problem they're going to run in here is Ohio State has circled this guy as their guy. No different than Miami circled Jackson Cantwell. Miami was going to do whatever it took to sign Jackson Cantwell. I have the feeling that Ohio State's going to do the same exact thing for Tyler Atkinson. That concerns me. Okay, I think you did the same thing for Jared Curtis. I think certain schools are circling certain guys and saying, we're going all in on this, even if it costs us something else. Number 6, I'm going to put Craig Dandridge down here. Now, prior to the spring eval period, I don't think Craig Dandridge was feeling like a must-have. That's probably the worst handwriting I've had all year.
What in the world is
that? That is bad.
You want to try that again?
No, I like it. It's comedically hilarious. Craig Dandridge is what that says right there, even though it looks like the back end of that says Durango. All right, Dandridge right there. A baller, a true go-go guy, not just a track kid. This is a track kid that really, really can play football. Like him a lot. Number 7, Justice Fitzpatrick. Anybody recognize that last name?
Fitzpatrick?
Yeah.
I know Orion Fitzpatrick.
You know Orion Fitzpatrick?
Minka Fitzpatrick.
You do know a Minka. This would be the younger brother of one Minka Fitzpatrick right here. They've been recruiting that one for a long, long time, okay? And in a corner class that's not really, really blue chip heavy, that's a big one to have. We'll put 9 and 10 all the way down here. Number 8 on the list, Jay Lamar, the running back out of Colquitt County. Now, you've got a really, really strong advantage here because your running backs coach, Josh Crawford, who is in responsibility of recruiting Jay Lamar, actually signed Jay's brother to Western Kentucky. So they've known the Lamar family, the Crawfords have, 7 years, 8 years. Josh Crawford's had multiple stops. Oh, and also, by the way, Crawford started his high school, his coaching career down in Lee County. So he knows the whole area. He's got all the relationships. I think they feel really, really good about where they're at right now with Jay Lamar. Number 9, Caden Prothro. He's down here because I think the major priority right now, at least for me, would be Mark Bowman. So we're going to put Caden Prothro down there at 9.
Is he related to Tyrone Prothro?
No. That's a good question, but no, he is not. And then Cedarian Morgan, the 5-star wide receiver that is reportedly going to be on campus at some point. I have it confirmed that Cedarian will be taking an official visit to the University of Georgia.
Word is this weekend.
Word is this weekend.
That's what people
I'll
say.
get the official list at some point this week of who's actually on campus, but that's what we got going on right now in terms of top 10, quote-unquote, must-have targets. Just chat asking about anybody else because there's always somebody that I miss that everybody else wants to see on the list.
No, the chat seems pretty.
Are they just cooking my handwriting instead?
Not
there's a
even
good bit about that.
It's more just, is so-and-so going here, so-and-so leaning here.
Yeah. One thing I have learned more and more is just how fluid this all seems to be nowadays. So yeah, I think, and honestly, there's rumors that the Atkinson thing's gotten crazy. I had someone tell me at Georgia they haven't even spoken about money. They don't even know what it's going to be. I think there's just expectations that it's going to be nuts. Georgia hasn't relayed that information to me. In fact, it's been the other way around. They have no idea what it's going to be. They're going to find out on their OV. That's what a lot of this is. You do not sit down with Georgia and have full-fledged financial conversations really until your official visit. So there's that. Whereas Miami, it's here's the offer as soon as you walk in. Your kid like money? We got it. Your kid like money? We got it.
Most kids
there's
like
that.
money.
I like money.
Money's pretty cool.
There ain't one O-line on that list, is it? Yeah, there is. There's Malachi Lee at the top.
Malachi Lee, yeah.
I think it's going to be bargain shopping, pick and stick offensive lineman this class after missing on Cantwell. The Malachi Lee thing sounds like, again, you're playing from catch up.
Which, I mean, is that problematic, though? Because we talked about how poor the recruiting classes were 2 and 3 years ago at the offensive line position. If you start bargain shopping now I get it. One player doesn't lift the entire class up.
You threw 6 really good bodies at it last year. You know?
Okay.
So I think you're okay. I mean, I go through some of these other depth charts, and they're like 6 deep at offensive line. Georgia's like 9 playable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I go on your depth chart and I see true freshman that wasn't David Sanders, I'm probably assuming that guy's not going to be ready to play.
Yeah.
Most schools are like within their 2 deep are 3 or 4 freshmen playing. So
I guess it's not a bad thing to be playing catch up during this time of year, though. I guess it is because like it's down to the wire. Like you're getting into the closing months for a lot of these players' commitments, but also you get an official visit that can change a lot.
by the way, there was a name left off that board because I feel like they feel really, really good about where they're at. Ryan Mosley, wide receiver out of Carrollton.
Good to hear.
So we get to December. How many do you think they're taking? Because we've seen in the last 2 or 3 classes where it's been really inflated, like pushing 30.
If it were my board, I would take 20 kids in this class, and I'd go sign 6 transfers, 7 transfers. I just don't think the class is that good.
As far as
26.
high school,
Yes.
the prospects
in terms
go.
of high school prospects, I just don't think it's deep enough to where I would rather go spend money elsewhere. Maybe some transfers that have extra years of eligibility.
Plus, like if you're just doing this from a Georgia perspective, it's kind of shaping up to where you may not have this large mass exodus to the NFL this offseason. Like it feels like you're going to retain a good amount of players this year, like outside of like a Dalen Everett or a CJ Allen, like those types of names are guys that just have to go. And a Christian Miller, who's obviously it continues to have his draft stock skyrocket. But like majority of your offensive line feels like they're going to be sticking around potentially. You still got another year of Nate Frazier. Wide receiver room that's kind of up in the air for some guys. But, I mean, it feels like you're going to retain majority of your roster this year. So it feels like you don't have to sign 32 players this year in your class or 28.
Correct. It'll just be interesting, though, because we have seen Kirby Smart land a top 5 roster recruiting-wise every year that he's been the head coach since he had a first full season in the door. And you have to imagine that you're probably not getting in that with 20 to 24 players or less. So I'm interested to see if they even just at some point say, you know what, we'll take a few just to make sure we are one of these top classes. You don't think so?
I don't think you give a shit.
No.
I think Georgia has been a top 4 recruiting class every single year that Kirby's been there because they're taking really good players and the rest of the industry thinks they're really good players. I've been told the number one way to get MF'd in a recruiting meeting with Kirby Smart is to say so-and-so's ranked such and such. Why do I give a shit? You know what I mean? Like, I study these kids way more.
You're the evaluator.
I'm the evaluator. We have 300 of you dumbasses. And we're gonna trust the recruiting rankings from some company that has 3 people doing this? No.
Not even from a narrative control standpoint, you think?
No, I think the booster base likes it. I think the booster base likes to hear that they have the number 1 recruiting class every once in a while. I think it gives you a little bit of PR bump, but no, I don't think. Now, have we ever seen an edit made? Have we ever seen Georgia tweet out an edit about the ranking of their class?
Never.
No.
We see it I've seen it from other schools. You know what I mean? Like, they do not care.
Ask Texas A&M how much they enjoyed that recruiting class.
Oh, yeah.
Most greatest class in college football history.
Ooh.
0 playoff appearances.
We can't get the 18-year-old to show up for workouts. Why not, Coach? Well, shit, we gave him $400,000 to get here. Yeah,
Tough.
man. Checks out.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. Season win totals?
We can
These
do
are
that.
kinda cool. Vegas has got a line set at 9.5. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make the case for the over and the under. Even though I'm going to be honest with you, making the case for the under, a little bit harder than making the case for the over for me.
Really?
Okay, when I look through the schedule, right, I look at it right now, and I can go ahead preseason mark off 8 wins. 8 should be wins. If you lose it, that's on you. That's an upset. That shouldn't happen. We got criticisms on Monday, right? Marshall, Austin P. I think week 3, Tennessee, that's a winnable football game. That should be a win for Georgia this year. Kentucky at Auburn, Mississippi State, Charlotte, Georgia Tech. If you don't get through those 8 games without wins, you are not getting to this line, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely not.
All right. So that, in my opinion, in my discussion of this topic, breaks it down to 4 football games for me in Georgia's season this year as to whether or not they're going to cross over that 9.5, right? It's Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida, and Texas. I don't think it's crazy to say they're 2-2 in those.
No, I don't think
I
so.
also don't think it's crazy to say they go 1-3.
Yeah.
I don't think that's crazy either. No.
I'm gonna bet the over. 9-3, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of where you're at now. We see it all across the league. I think 9.5 wins is the highest win total for any SEC team, whereas 2 years ago Georgia had a win total of 11.5. Like, predicting undefeated seasons and seeing this now, it doesn't happen much anymore. But I do think that we need to pay attention more to the kind of the automatics. You should win that game. Yes, you should win that game, but winning that game hasn't gotten any easier. Beating Georgia Tech hasn't gotten any easier than it was 5 years ago. Beating Auburn isn't any easier than it was, 5 years ago. Beating, who else? Tennessee. Like, all 3 of those teams have taken massive strides.
Florida.
Yeah, beating Florida. Like, all 3 or 4 of those teams have taken massive strides since you started beating their heads in. And by the way, like, you're on winning streaks with all of them right now. You'd have to imagine that somewhere along the way, they're going to get you. They're rivalry games. They're teams. They're SEC teams. They're Power 4 teams. They're going to get you at some point. Like, Georgia Tech is going to win a game eventually. You'd have to imagine you're on the longest win streak against Tennessee of series history. You've never won this many games in a row against Tennessee. You would have to imagine they're going to get you at some point. So
I don't think it's this year.
Very well.
Too much to break in. Way too much to break in to get a top 10 win week 3, even if it is at home.
And that typically seems to be where Tennessee has their slip-ups throughout the season. It is kind of earlier in the years when they were breaking in Nico and the offense. They had the loss to Arkansas. And I know that's kind of more towards the middle of the season, but that's typically when those things happen for them. The one that, like, for you it's Tennessee. For me, for like an SEC team that I think that maybe some worry about that I don't think you have to worry about as much, I do think it is Ole Miss. Like, Ole Miss had – the defensive line was the reason why you lost that football game because you couldn't stop them. You couldn't buy Carson Beck anytime. Things were not going your way offensively. That's majority of that is gone now, and I don't think that they're going to have that product on the football field this year on top of it being at home, and they're going to have a new starting quarterback and some new weapons as well. Now, Lane Kiffin always has a good offense, but I think that's where last year was just completely different than anything you've ever faced against Lane Kiffin.
The environment in that game, as far as weather goes, played a factor as well. It was a very muddy game. And you can say what you want, it was muddy for them as well, but that game got mucked up very badly to the point where I think Georgia's offense suffered. And Ole Miss dealt with the same thing, but they had a couple better drives.
I see people in the chat talking about price ranges for athletes. All that is subjective. We don't have any firm reporting. When I have a firm number, I'll bring it to you. I'll let you know, just like I did with Cantwell, just like I did with Curtis. If and when I get a firm number, I'll let you know. Other than that, I think I don't read other people's reporting. It seems like I know Josh Armstrong reads everything that's ever been written because he is glued in. He's locked the fuck in. So if that guy says $2.5 million in the chat for Tyler Atkinson, he's read that somewhere. He's not making that up. I just haven't heard that number. I haven't heard a single number. That's what I just told you up there. I don't think George is going to talk to him about numbers until he comes on his OV. So, And I think there was some chatter in there about where does he rank in terms of guys. He's the best linebacker I've ever seen in high school. I didn't watch Roquan. He's better as a high school prospect than Nakobe was. So, like I said, man, there's no – and this is what kind of sucks about today's day and age of college football, because in 2019, that kid's a dog 100% of the time. He's a dog every single time. They have had a relationship with him and his family since he was 13 years old. I believe they offered him before he played a high school football game. They have been in on this one forever, no different than they were in on Justice Terry from day one. And sometimes it just might not go your way. I think there's an opportunity that I keep talking about it like it's not going to happen. I think there's a very strong likelihood that Tyler Atkinson says, I don't care. I want to play for Glenn Schumann. I want to play for Kirby Smart. I think there is 100% avenue for that. But James Laurinaitis ain't a bad football coach.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it's – and he's a 3 and done. And I don't think there's any – same with Mark Bowman. Mark Bowman does not need Todd Hartley. If he wants to play for Todd Hartley, that's great. But some of these prospects, you don't have to tell them, hey, you got to come play for here for your future. No, they don't. You know? I think Cantwell probably needed. But you can go dominate ACC competition and be a first-rounder. Francis Moaga's going to do it this year.
He's had 2 NFL draft picks, Brooks.
Yeah.
He's born to be developed down there.
Yeah.
A third if you count the guy on the roster right now.
Big facts that they used Francis's photo for. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Oops.
Whoopsie.
Whoops.
I think going back to the schedule, though, I think the biggest, like for the Alabama game, if you want to like kind of put it in a different direction, the fact that this is the first time that Alabama will be playing at Georgia since 2015. I mean, it's been a decade since these boys have made the trip to Athens. So I know that there's some really big games, and we talked about fatigue as far as fans go in the national hour, but I feel like that one's been circled on Georgia's schedule before it was even put on the schedule. I mean, I feel like that does provide somewhat of a difference in that matchup.
Chat's asking me Tyler Atkinson or Justin Williams. Tyler Atkinson by a smidge.
A smidge.
By a smidge. Now, I probably would have been feeling a little bit different had I been 10 miles outside of Dallas and watched Justin Williams in high school. But I've known Tyler since he was 13, just like Georgia has. And there's no way that kid misses. None.
As a player, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as a person. He's a great person. You know?
What was it called? You said someone called DJ Pickett an unmess-upable?
Yeah, an unfuckable 5-star.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's what this is. This is an unfuckable 5-star.
You should be put on trial if you do.
Facts. Unless he just tears a seal. Unless he a seal tearees, like first week.
A seal.
ACL tear. Coach, it's a seal tearee. Y'all never seen the, what is that, the Replacements? No.
Oh, you're talking about the one where he gets like hit by the bus.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I can't remember the name of it.
Chat will get us.
Chat will get us.
I always do.
The Replacements, the Keanu Reeves movie.
Yes. Also not a bad football movie.
No, good one. The Irish Kicker's great in that movie. And the Samoan, or the Asian sumo wrestler that eats all the eggs pregame. It's a great movie. Chat's asking about Abrams. It's a really, really good football player. Guys, they're going to take 2 linebackers this class, I think. And they're going to be really, really good football players. But you're going to watch them take 2 football players and watch 2 5-stars go out of your state. Xavier Griffin's not going to Georgia. And Tyler Atkinson, right now, I would forecast today, if you made me, to Ohio State. So, yeah, like Xavier Griffin's gone. That one's not happening, okay, in my opinion. Xavier Griffin no-showed the scavenger hunt, doesn't have an OV set up for you.
Yeah.
He gone. It ain't happening at Georgia. So there's that.
Tough. You want to spin the wheel?
I could spin the wheel. Or we can talk about Jarvis.
Yeah, let's do Jarvis.
Jarvis is my guy. I can expose Jarvis now that he's gone off the staff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Is that how that works?
If you're
expose the wrong word.
I'll say I'm like the exposing.
I can shed light on the relationship between
This
this
was a
show
positive thing.
and Jarvis.
This was a
now
positive.
that he's gone. Jarvis Jones, big-time certified ball knower. Jarvis Jones, big-time TFN subscriber. All right, would talk to us all the time about it. Y'all bumped into me a couple times talking to Jarvis pregame. Also, where the hell am I going to get my pregame fix in now? All right, because Jarvis was my guy. Every single pregame hit me up with a rain straight from Georgia's supply. Okay, so where am I going to get my caffeine now? That's a problem.
Bring your own.
No.
Oh.
Can't get it through stadium security.
Sure you could.
You
right.
totally could.
Definitely could.
Who?
Bro, do you know how much alcohol is smuggled into that stadium?
Yeah, but I don't wear boots.
You don't need
Isn't that how most of the frat guys
Buddy.
do it? They suck half the air out of a water bottle filled with vodka and then stick it in their boot? Little boot and shoot?
No.
No? How'd y'all do it?
I didn't ever snuck alcohol in.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I wouldn't either. But nah, my man Jarvis has left the University of Georgia, was helping out with the outside linebackers. The outside linebackers assistant coach is now going to be becoming the head coach at Carver Columbus, his alma mater. And I think it's a great opportunity for Jarvis. Obviously, this is where Dale McGee coached before he went to Georgia Southern and then ultimately ended up at Georgia. And having played there, I think it's a great spot for him to return to. Not only that, but having been down there this spring, that place needs a Jarvis. They just won a state title, so don't make me think like the coaching staff is bad. But that environment, that area, those young men, they need to be able to look at somebody as this guy, what he is telling me just might work. Hell, he did it himself. He got up out of here and made a life and a career out of football as well. So, no thoughts?
No, I think it's a tough loss for Georgia because it's a legacy guy that obviously had connections here as a player as well. And so when they depart, it's kind of sad, but it's somewhat satisfying to see them go out and that Kirby Smart tree kind of grow even more. Like Del McGee, we talked about, Fran Brown, Sam Pittman, like the tree. We're watching the tree grow for Kirby Smart. Yeah, Dan Lanning, like guys like that. I couldn't name them all.
It'll end up being Buster Faulkner too.
Buster Faulkner will be on this. Like the tree keeps growing, so it's exciting to see that. I mean, like it's exciting to see.
Plus, it makes sense for Jarvis to do this because obviously you get to go coach for your former high school. You get to be the head coach of your former high school, but also if you were trying to make a move up the totem pole, it wasn't happening anytime soon at Georgia, or doesn't appear that way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Uzo doesn't seem to be leaving anytime soon. Schumann still is locked in with Georgia. I mean, that defensive staff has remained intact for a good while.
I'm going to tell you right now, Chidera Uzo-Deribe will be a defensive coordinator somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Guys, he was defensive end coach at the University of Georgia at 29 years old.
Oh, that wasn't to say
that guy's gonna
he's
be
just
gone.
like, he's a lifer.
No.
That dude ain't never leaving Athens. Yeah. I mean,
no, just
but
not right now.
feels
We don't
like
think.
you don't want to wait on that to happen potentially is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, no. I think Uzo is a fast rise. I mean, he was a fast rising young coach when they took him from Kansas. So now he's at Georgia. This will be his third year
Think so.
at Georgia.
Third or fourth.
Going on third year at Georgia. I don't think he's meant for Athens forever. I think that guy's gonna, like I said, take a DC job at some point. Did someone leave the staff? I just started watching. Yes, Jarvis Jones, outside linebackers coach, going to be the head coach at Carver Columbus. And we lost a sub, probably.
No, they didn't lose a
You
sub.
think he unsubbed?
Why would he do that?
I don't know. I talked to him today. He didn't mention it.
Did you ask him?
Did you
Did you
unsub from us?
unsub?
Yeah,
No.
did you unsub from the Patreon?
No. I just told him congratulations. If you need anything, let me know.
That's just a dude that loved the dogs.
Yeah.
He ain't unsubbing.
Ain't unsubbing, bro.
That's a legend.
And by the way, that Towns car that he may or may not have gotten a rather hefty speeding ticket in, I've seen that sucker. I'd be driving at 92. That thing is badass.
I haven't seen it, actually.
Oh, dude, you'll hear it before you see it. Oh, yeah. It's an old, I don't even know what kind of, it's like old Chevelle, I think. Oh, my God, it's badass. Baby blue, white top. Oh, 22s on it. Yeah, buddy. But I think he's going to crush it down there at Carver Columbus. I know the staff's really, really happy for him. As for who they replace him with, I don't know. Maybe another up-and-coming outside linebackers coach like the one that they have right now running the position. I'm sure it's one that's relatively competitive right now in terms of people trying to leave their current job to get to Georgia to replace Jarvis in that room. So there's that.
Lovely.
Exciting stuff for Jarvis. The sack man.
Absolutely. The
Grown
sack
man football.
Dude, that forced fumble against Florida, that's one of the biggest plays in Georgia.
That game against Florida.
Him single-handedly beating Missouri.
That too.
Literally beat him by himself, essentially.
That 2012 season was unreal.
Mm.
They should have won the Natty, man.
All right. Let's spin the wheel.
Let's spin the wheel.
When's the last time you spun the wheel?
It's got to be pretty recent. We didn't spin the wheel a single time last week on Tuesday.
I mean, we did, but was he? I don't think
he was here
I
Tuesday.
don't think he spun it. He might have.
Avoiding the wheel.
Oh, look, he's a natural. He's still got it.
Man, that was clean.
Guy's locked in.
He's still got it.
Oh, hit me with a would you rather.
All right. Would you rather have a 3,000-yard passing season from Gunnar Stockton or a 550 rushing yard season?
3,000 is not a lot. If you would have told me 3,500, I would have taken that one.
Like 3,000 is the ceiling. Like that's as far as it goes.
Like you're guaranteed that. Like he has at least 3,000 passing yards,
It's not enough.
or he has at least 500 rushing
If
yards.
he throws for 3,000 yards this year, he's going to have to rush for 500 for this offense to put up the amount of points that it needs to.
So you're
Give me
gonna
the 550 because I'm going to assume Gunnar Stockton's throwing for 3,200 yards this year. Offer it.
That's probably
what's 32 divided by 12.
32 divided by
That's
12 is
280
like
yards a game.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
My worry though is if you're taking 500 rushing yards, Gunnar Stockton is carrying the ball a good bit.
Yeah.
And we've seen within a game and a half, Gunnar Stockton doesn't mind taking hits. Gunnar Stockton going
Almost
for 5
welcomes it.
Exactly. I love the grittiness of that. I don't love that as watching a quarterback take those types of hits. I would rather take the 3,000 yards, honestly.
Fireworks.
Happy
How about
Lovely.
Interesting.
Go and pop that shit off, cuz.
Sounds like it's in your front yard.
I was out in Texas this week, and my little nephew hears a loud popping sound in the background. And my sister goes, "Don't worry about that. That's probably just fireworks." And I said, "No, ma'am. That would be gunshots. We are in Texas." Those are fireworks.
As long as they're not at you.
No, they weren't. Didn't hear any cracks.
It's probably a wild boar, dude.
Yeah, maybe. I think it was just dudes in their backyard popping shit off.
I guess I would take the 550 from Stockton because I'm already expecting I feel like almost any quarterback that walks in to be Georgia's starting quarterback today, 3,000 yards is a minimum. Like I feel like that's the threshold for them to reach. So I feel like they take the 550 because that's not what I was exactly expecting.
Yeah, I would have made that. Would
year.
you rather 3,500 yards? I think we would have been a real pickle there. In a real pickle.
Is that name that bulldog?
That is named that Bulldog.
I've been on a heater.
All right, Jay. Well, let's see if you can
No
get this
chance
one.
I'm getting this, but let's try.
I mean, you did cover this guy.
Okay.
Oh,
You were
okay.
covering Georgia at there.
That's a good start.
All right, he's a former 5-star prospect from the state of Georgia.
Is it Ben Cleveland?
It's not Ben Cleveland. He played wide receiver during the Kirby Smart era.
Okay.
His best season was not with the Georgia Bulldogs.
Ooh. 5-star wide receiver that transferred out and had a better year after. Jermaine Burton wasn't a 5-star.
Jermaine Burton was not
So
a
it wasn't
5-star.
him.
It's not Jermaine Burton. Would you like another clue, or you?
It wasn't A.D. Mitchell. He wasn't a 5-star.
Matt Landers wasn't a 5-star, was he?
I don't remember. Matt Landers may have been like a composite 5-star.
Ooh, Demetrius Robertson.
It's Demetrius Robertson.
Oh, wow.
Demetrius
yeah.
Robertson had 700 receiving yards as a freshman at Cal, then transferred to Georgia, and I don't think he had more than 400 in a season for them.
And then he went and played at Auburn. I believe he had a better year at Auburn than he ever did at Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Did not start or finish his career with the Georgia Bulldogs.
Was an interesting football player.
That was. I thought, I was a high schooler when he first transferred over. I thought, like, oh, my God, we got.
Well, it really sucked for Demetrius that he tore his knee up his freshman year.
Yeah,
his
it did.
freshman tape at Cal was 5-star caliber. And then the one jet sweep he took against, I think it was UMass, his first year at Georgia was the only play he made his first year. and that looked really juicy. But after that, there wasn't a lot of.
Well, and there was that 20.
It didn't pop.
Well, he really popped in the 2018 LSU game too, in Death Valley. He had like 4 catches for like 78 yards. I think he used like half of Jake Fromm's yardage that game.
Boy, I tied one on that day in Dahlonega. Whew. Man.
In Dahlonega?
Oh, yeah, dude. We were up there mining for gold while getting chatty-faced.
Did you get
Crazy
any
but
gold?
true. I got hammered in Dahlonega. Crazy but true.
Honestly, that's not that crazy.
No, it's not.
I've been to Dahlonega.
It's a beer town.
As I
That's
say,
about it.
that's what
That's all there is to do.
That's
Yep.
what you do in Dahlonega. Did you know that Stetson Bennett threw for more touchdowns in his 4 college football playoff games than he did the entire 2020 season?
Wow.
That's crazy
But true.
but true.
That boy was on a heater.
So he must have thrown for like 17 touchdowns in the
He threw
playoff runs?
he threw for 12 touchdowns in 4 playoff games. His touchdown interception ratio in those 4 games was 12-1.
I only remember 2020 quarterback play at the University of Georgia for Kirby Smart's comments after the Florida game saying, can we just find somebody to hit our layups? Can we just find somebody to hit the wide open receivers? Because we just keep overthrowing everybody.
Did he say that in the presser?
Yes.
You know, it's so interesting.
Right after the Florida game, it was, we have got to find somebody that can hit layups.
It's so interesting, though, because I felt like he was balling in that game, and then he got hit, had that collarbone injury, had the fumble. Like it was.
And
like
then we have the video of Dwan Mathis hitting the ball, right? That's that moment.
But it felt like Stetson Bennett, up until that point, was playing fine.
Yeah.
Like they marched down the field. Zamir White had the 75-yard touchdown run. They marched down the field, had the touchdown of Marcus Trezemy-Jackson. You're up 14-0 in that game. Then Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts happened, and then it was you can't stay on the field.
Lewis Cine murdered Kyle Pitts, and then Kyle Pitts happened. Kyle Trask happened.
Well, they were tied at 21 at that point.
Yeah. Didn't Trask throw for 375 in the first half?
It was something like that. They had like 28 first half
That was the
points.
wheel route game, right?
Seton was like, I ain't got nothing to lose. Let me go catch a body real quick.
UGA trivia.
UGA trivia.
What do you got for me?
All right, here's a good one. When was the last year a Georgia defensive back had 5 or more interceptions in a single season?
Is this transfer dude from 2019?
Transfer dude from 2019.
Are you thinking of Maurice Smith?
2018, Mo Smith, yeah.
Mo
That was
Smith? No,
2016.
that was 26. That was Kirby's first year.
The obvious answer has to feel like it's
Tyke Smith?
Dominic Sanders.
What
But
year?
I feel like it is Dominic Sanders.
It might have been Dominic Sanders. I'm not telling you.
Not 2017.
It was not 2017.
I feel like it's got to be 2015.
It was 2015. Dude, Jay was on the heater right
Jay
now.
was on a heater.
Come on now.
We're going to leave one there. Let's go back to the table because I have a it's not even a take. It's more really a question. Do we like what Wes Johnson does with the SEC baseball tournament?
Just accepting the loss.
No, just basically tanking. Like, do we like it? Because I look, on paper, I totally understand the strategy, right? We don't want to burn our pitching staff. We don't want to waste arms. We want to have our pitching staff and rotation completely rested up and ready to go during the regional. I understand all of it. However, how do you go into a room of competitive athletes and say, hey, guys, we're throwing this one today? Because they know they're doing it. The team knows they're doing it. But as a coach, do you just say, hey, freshman that hasn't started all year, we're starting you? And I don't know what the exact situation was because I was out of town, but I know he openly spoke about, we don't care about this. We're focused on NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, and then they go out there, throw a guy, and Johnny Holstaff the thing, and then just get blown out and go, all right, we'll see y'all back in Athens for the regional, and we hope we play good. Baseball, to me, is such a momentum sport. Teams are hot late in the year. That's why they win titles. Tennessee won the SEC baseball tournament last year, went on to win the national title, played well in the tournament. Like, you see what I'm saying?
I mean, everything's a momentum sport, too.
I know, but it's just weird. It's weird. I understand. It's one of those things where I understand the strategy, don't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, Wes Johnson is very vocally a nerd when it comes to baseball. So I'm sure he has the metrics to back this up, and I'm sure he has all the numbers in the world that tells him that this is the right thing to do, and it's the right thing to do a bullpen game. I will say this, though. I think this year more than any other year, you kind of walked into a bad situation anyways. Like, even if you threw Brian Curley out there on the mound against Oklahoma that day, you probably still don't win that game because Oklahoma threw their first rounder. Like, you faced one of the best pitchers in college baseball, and he beat you. I mean, he shut you down offensively. He did what he was supposed to do. So this year it kind of makes sense, but it is now 2 years in a row. And now last year it kind of worked out in his favor. I mean, they made it to the Super Regionals. You're one game away from making it to College World Series, but if it gets to a point where we're hitting a wall, we can only get to the Super Regionals and we're not getting any further, then it becomes a bigger discussion.
Some of these teams like Vandy that went balls to the wall despite their already top 8 seeding, they went in to play and win that tournament. They've got pitching for days. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, Georgia doesn't have this. No. It doesn't feel like. They don't have 3 or 4 quality starters that they know are all MLB guys. Like, they have 2 or 3, and then the rest of it's patchwork out of the bullpen. Mm-hmm. That's what it's felt like all year watching this baseball team. So I understand it. I just don't like the mentality of walking into a room and saying, guys, let's go see if we can win one today, but we're really not trying.
No, I'm with you on that.
But, I mean, like, you see this in professional levels too.
Yeah.
Like, when a team secure the top 2 seeds, like, they'll sit their stars. That happens in the NBA. That happens in the NFL. Like, I think it's more of a testament to how meaningless these conference tournaments are becoming, and it's unfortunate because I think it's something that there's a lot of pride in being in the SEC. There's a lot of pride in winning the SEC. But when stuff like this continuously happens and there's a legitimate reason for doing it, we all talk about it. It makes sense as to why you do it. I mean, if Kirby Smart sat Carson Beck last year, how different does that postseason look? So stuff like that, like, you understand why it's done, but at the same point, you're sacrificing the meaning and the value of these games that you're playing in.
And I think more than anything, it's not like Wes Johnson is going out there and saying it's a bullpen game while also saying we're going to play our 5 true freshmen and just completely rework the lineup in the SEC tournament. I mean, he played his starters in the field. Yeah. He played his best weapon, which is the bats in that lineup. Again, your bats just didn't produce on that day. Oklahoma shut you down, and you lost the game. So
that's fair.
You want to save your arms for sure. I completely understand that. But it is certainly like we don't need this. And I get it. I mean, you're the number 1 in RPI. You had the second toughest schedule in all of college baseball. You had a great conference record. You played great at home this year. You know you're going to be a host seed. So why would you kind of put more strain on your roster if you feel like you don't have to?
Not only that, you know you're going to be a super regional host seed if you get to that point. Ole Miss will have to travel to Athens if they end up winning their regional.
Yep.
This is going to show my true ignorance of college baseball. What happens if one of the top 8 seeds loses, but one of the crossover regional team doesn't, the highest seed doesn't win? For example, if Georgia were to lose the regional and Ole Miss were to lose the regional, where do they play the super?
It'd be the next highest for that.
Of the teams making
I guess there would be, they'd then pull the ranking from them, and they would figure out who gets to host that super regional.
Interesting.
I think. I don't know, to be honest. It's a good question.
Something I'm sure it's happened.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious what the actual protocol is. Or it doesn't even have to be that. What if Georgia doesn't win their regional, Ole Miss hosts the super?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because they're nationally seeded.
Yeah.
But, like, if Duke wins the Georgia regional and one other team in Ole Miss's regional wins it, then I guess it would go to –
who's it? Is Georgia, Duke? Who else is in it?
God, there's one –
Oklahoma State?
Bringhampton or something like that.
Farhampton?
And Oregon State.
Oregon State's not
Oklahoma State.
Oregon State's a unit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I learned that when I was out in
Kirby, you're not contributing much to the baseball conversation.
Yeah, you don't know round ball?
I'm not going to be honest with you guys.
You don't know white ball?
I mean, it wasn't one of my passions growing up. I can understand it. I comprehend it. I don't watch it on an avid enough level to name the takes and give things like that.
He did tell me he watched his first Braves game from start to finish this weekend.
On Friday, yeah.
Oof. What, were you on a gummy or something?
No, I was hanging out with some friends.
Man.
They had it on in the background. And
Gonna get up and leave after that. Just for the love of the game, man. It's a great sport.
It was an entertaining one to watch.
There are such things?
They choked it.
Oh, you watched that one.
Yeah, dude.
Oh.
I was in person for that one.
Is that the one where Acuna hit the first ball out?
Yeah. It was a real high, then it went to a real low.
When you're not watching football, Kirby, what are you watching?
Like with other sports?
Anime?
No.
Are you kidding me? No way. Hey, there's no chance this kid watched Avatar growing up. No chance.
No, I mean,
I don't know about
like
Avatar.
Avatar on like Cartoon Network was cool, but like, after that,
The Last Airbender.
Last Airbender, yeah.
But yeah, what are you watching when you're not watching ball?
Oh, I'll watch UFC. I'll watch some jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Checks out.
I'll watch like any YouTube. I'll watch do a lot of music.
Bare knuckle fighting on YouTube.
No, dude, that shit's tough. I don't want to watch that. Just guys mutilate their bodies.
We were one time in the Discord lounge at like 1 o'clock in the morning. There's like 60 of us in the Discord lounge hanging out, talking, bullshitting. And we stumbled into a live stream of bare knuckle fist fights in Russia where the ring was nothing but hay bales, like stacks of hay in
I've
a
seen
circle. And those dudes were getting after it.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Late night finds.
For like $500. You ever watch Street Beefs?
No.
Go to YouTube and look up Street Beefs.
Now, see, YouTube in my mind was created for Kimbo Slice. Like that's when I first started watching YouTube clips. When Kimbo Slice was out here street fighting in Miami and beating people to a pulp. He's got one fight in a basement somewhere where the dude's face looks like hamburger meat when they get done fighting.
Yeah. Kimbo Slice was a legit like striker in the UFC too.
Yeah, he ended up winning a UFC fight.
A couple of them.
Yeah. It's like he was George. He walked so George Masvidal could run.
Interesting.
Masvidal was a street fighter in Miami.
He was. I know. I mean, I know that, but
you don't like the interesting take.
It's an interesting. Like the personalities are pretty different. But you know, what's Georgia's most underrated game this season? You think?
I blazed over this segment on accident. Is it Georgia Tech?
I put it as Tennessee.
I got it
I
at
did
Auburn.
too.
At Auburn.
Auburn. I feel like Auburn's
sneaky.
Everyone
right
always
there
circles
Kentucky and
Auburn
Ole
because
Miss.
it's like, oh shit, we're going to Jordan Hare.
Yeah,
like that one's
Everybody's
always
alert. You're right.
Everyone's always on the radar for that one. But like Tennessee, I was doing some numbers on it. Tennessee hasn't lost a home game before November since Josh Heupel's first season. Like for as much as we talk about
they fitting her. No, I'm just kidding.
For as much as we talk about how they kind of stumble early in the season, they're pretty stout at home until then. Until it's like late season when these things really become unraveled for them. So, plus add that with it's Gunnar Stockton's first start on the road. That is going to be a daunting environment against a secondary that we believe is going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like that's probably going to be the strongest aspect of that. Like
you still know Jamar McCoy.
No, not that early in the season.
So you'd be
unless it's a record time.
Yeah, unless he just
rehab
blood spins it like Kobe did.
Yeah. But
Mamba mentality.
Unless you find out his wife's got steroids getting showed up to the house like Peyton. You know, don't look into my wife's medical history, please.
The stat I pulled on it was it would be 5 straight wins at Neyland for Georgia, something Georgia has never done in the rivalry's history.
You're on the longest win streak in series history.
You would tie the longest one in the matchup history. Tennessee did 9 in a row. You would tie that this year if you won.
But you're on your team's longest win streak.
8.
So I'm honestly really worried about that game.
I'm not.
Making you tremble a little bit, giving you the night sweats.
I am at the same point with Tennessee and Georgia as I am with Georgia and Alabama. I will pick the opposing team until you prove to me that you can do it. I'm going to pick Alabama this year. That's
understandable.
I'm sorry.
I think a lot of people are.
I'm telling you right now. When Alabama comes to Athens, I'm picking Alabama. And when Georgia goes to Tennessee, I'll pick Georgia. And it'll be that way until I'm proven wrong otherwise.
It's an understandable take, and I get it. But like you say, at some point it's going to happen. Georgia's not going to beat Tennessee until the end of time.
And look, with the Bama thing, I'll be happy when I'm wrong. I think this year I'll be wrong. On paper, I like Georgia's.
I'm picking Alabama.
This is elite takery right here.
I'm picking Bama.
This is so good.
I think Georgia's going to beat them, but I'm picking Bama.
I'm picking Bama, but Georgia's going to beat them.
Listen to me curve takes in May.
You did this last year on the adverse. You said, I'm picking Georgia, but I think it's going to be Alabama.
No, I picked Bama and said I think Georgia's going to win, but I'm picking Bama anyways.
Man. That's just elite.
So you're picking Bama.
He even spaced it out enough to where he can go back and clip it, and it just looks like a completely different take.
You'll learn. One of these days.
I stand 10 toes down.
I
don't need to spin my takes.
You stay on the takes, man.
What is that old TikTok sound? You are watching a master at work.
I think think that the Georgia Tech one could be classified as underrated just because it's in the bins. Like it's gonna be something completely different.
Here's why I didn't put
No
that
way.
one there.
That place, I don't
place
care what
so
anybody
neat.
says though. That place, it is a perfect venue for a neutral
Oh
site.
my God, it's a perfect venue for a football game. Period. It's beautiful.
It is.
It's gorgeous. Too many amenities, and that fucking horn can piss off. But other than that, it's a great place to watch a football game.
Yeah, it truly
It
is.
I don't mind the horn, honestly.
Yeah, when you sit up there, you will.
I think the neutral site horn is.
It would get really old if the 8 overtime game was at Mercedes-Benz. Oh my!
I think
gosh.
they'd have given it up on that point.
Oh
All right,
no!
Stop pressing.
No.
But also, they didn't score that much in overtime.
Yeah, you're right. It kind of failed a lot.
There was a lot of I think there were only like 3 completed conversions on each side. But I didn't circle Georgia Tech because I feel like you got so close to getting got last. Like you were literally inches away numerous times from losing to Georgia Tech at home in Sanford State. They're going to be ready for that game.
I'm ready for the Aaron Philo experience at Georgia Tech to begin. I know Haynes King's cool and all, but Philo's going to be a guy. I think Philo's going to be an NFL football
There's
player.
a good chance to see him this year.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially with how much Haynes King gets hit.
I think that's what he was referring to.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was referring to.
So we'll see. I'm against the Mercedes-Benz take, by the way, at least in this rivalry. I call me crazy. I like going to Georgia Tech for football games.
Whoa, what?
Yeah,
I have not heard good things about that venue.
Why?
I enjoyed it.
Why?
Every time I'm there, I enjoy it.
Why?
Security doesn't fuck with you.
You know why?
Environment's immersive.
How often did you go in the box for that? Because you were on the field for last year's game.
1 out of 3. The last time I was in the box there, my wife told me she was pregnant when I got home with my firstborn. So
Wait,
it was 6 years ago.
Okay, so this
It's
would
been a
have been
minute.
like 20.
This is pre-COVID.
This was 2019. then.
Yeah. This is George Pickens' game. I was in the box for
that's
that one.
that noon. No.
Yeah,
You're a big Ramblin' Wreck fan, aren't you?
yeah,
brother.
huge rambling red
Brother,
guy.
oh,
this
For
guy.
a stadium designed
Gives
by
I'm a hell of an
Goosies.
engineer.
for a stadium designed by engineers,
No,
His-
they got
is the most ergonomic.
they got a European soccer vibe about their student section. Their student section, like, they don't do the American defense, defense. They actually have like choreographed. This is gonna sound lame and nerdy, but they have like choreographed student section songs.
Because how else are you going to get him to show up?
Well, I can tell you this.
Y'all are haters.
I can tell you this. An open press box.
haters.
An open press box in late November. With a wind tunnel effect, by the way. And the only way you can access the press box is by going through the fan concourse, cutting through lines. At the
Ooh.
night kick, horrible. There's one set of stairs. There's one ramp to get up to the press box. It is a shit show. That stadium sucks.
You know, Kirby, perhaps we could reignite something for you. You know, the last time that Georgia wore a specific jersey, they played in this stadium. This game is yet again being played on Black Friday.
I'm not falling for that shit again. They got me once.
Georgia versus Georgia Tech.
I sipped the Kool-Aid on that. I thought they were going to
Might
have
be a
it.
good idea to bring the black
I'm
jerseys
not.
out.
Now, you know what I'm going to do? Georgia's not wearing black jerseys this year.
Kirby, you do know there's a difference between an architect and an engineer, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, just making sure.
That's part
Architects design the stadium.
of the joke.
Still
Miss
smart.
me. Nerds.
Get Ted Mosby up in there. He'd get that thing right. You had people telling their family members they were wearing black jerseys in that game. You had the whole world.
Honestly,
on
though,
watch.
if I've reached that status where people are like, this guy's saying he's a trusted source, I'm fine with that.
That's show growth. That's what
Yeah,
that
That's
is.
growth.
Trusting people at the
Mom,
family
the
dinner
YouTube,
table.
The YouTube man said they're wearing black jerseys.
The YouTube man. The stashed YouTube
One of the
man.
3 YouTube men. Those guys.
Sorry, guys. It's on me.
I had a cool moment with one of my cousins this week. He looked at another one of my cousins and was like, some of my family from the Midwest I haven't seen in like a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my older cousins looks at one of my younger cousins and he goes, "Do you know who this guy is? This guy's a ball knower." It's like, "Hi, I'm your oldest cousin."
Sick.
Start studying up, youngling.
He's going to Bama.
Oh, never mind. Too late.
He's going to be a frat king.
Oh,
He's going to run that down.
dude.
or end up in trouble pretty quickly. I don't know. That's one way
They
or
have
another.
frat kings over
No
there.
in-betweens there. Appreciate you guys being here. We'll be back tomorrow with another loaded show.